If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. It's a game day. The pivotal Game 5 in the Stanley Cup Playoff Series. The Mammoth are in Las Vegas to play the Golden Knights tonight. It'll get underway 8 o'clock here on the Zone. Everybody's looking forward to it. They split 2 games in Las Vegas. They split 2 games in Salt Lake, and now it's back to Vegas. It's essentially a best-of-3 series. I don't think there could be more hype, more excitement, more confusion about what may or may not be about to happen. We're all going to look forward to it. Who the heck knows, right? We're going to have more on this game coming up later this morning with Ken Boehlke. He covers hockey for Sin Bin Vegas. And he's going to join us coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. Another big topic for you college football fans. Wow. So Sorsby's been gambling, and when he was in Indiana, apparently he bet on Indiana football games, and now there's a decent chance that he could face a lifetime suspension, given his eligibility. A 1-year suspension is essentially a lifetime suspension from college football. And Texas Tech, the overwhelming favorite. Now what? Now who's the overwhelming favorite? Now, they've got their backup, Will Hammond, who famously played very well against the Utes last year in Salt Lake City. Came in late in the game and helped Texas Tech win that game. But he's coming off an ACL injury. It's not exactly clear when he'll be ready to go. And although he played very well against the Utes, he didn't play that well in every appearance last year. So some question marks there as far as when will he play, and how good will he be? And let's assume that he plays right away and that he's really good. There's still the question, does he stay healthy? Because then they're down essentially to their quarterback. So Texas Tech, I think if you want to draw some parallels between where the Utes were 2 or 3 years ago, when it looked like they'd be pretty good, but then he had a quarterback injury and they weren't good, that's what Texas Tech is staring down the face of. Now, maybe it'll work out for him. It could work out. The door isn't completely slammed on them. Now, as far as their schedule, they do play Houston in September. Houston was 6-3 in the league last year. They've got to play both Arizona schools, but they don't play BYU or Utah. The Arizona schools were both 6-3 in the league last year. And, not everything will hold form to last year. I mean, there will be changes. But they do get West Virginia, Colorado, and Oklahoma State, who were all 2-7 or worse and at the bottom of the league. They were in the bottom quarter of the league last year. In the case of Colorado and Oklahoma State, 1-8, 0-9, nowhere to go but up, right? So super interesting to see what happens. But I would say for all the good teams in the Big 12, the fact that one team that was very good is now down a quarterback, and the second-string quarterback has some real questions as far as health and productivity. Super interesting. Very interesting. We'll get more on that coming up later this morning. Pete Sousa, Inside the Big 12, is going to join us at 7:30. We will talk with him. DJ and PK, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, PK with Jake Scott. Stay with us.
Now, you've heard of on the other side of the mountains, Coach Prime. Well, we got ourselves J Prime. That's my new nickname for him, J Prime. Jake Scott, he ain't doing midday, early mornings, and any of that stuff now. He's prime time, 2 to 6 with Ben Anderson. J Prime, how's it going? Good morning.
I don't know, PK. We may have to work on that one.
Jay Prime, you're like Jay Slow. Jay Slow had a run doing some coaching early And then he left that, went to the Jazz, and then lit it up for 22 years, became a Hall of Fame coach in addition to a fine player. You used to do some prime time in kind of a in-between days of the Zone, and now we're back on the Zone together again. And you're back doing prime, only this time not with Gordon, who's going to be joining us at 9 o'clock, by the way.
Nice.
And you're doing the afternoon show, PM Drive. Prime time, Jake, huh? Good for you.
Well, we can't all be in the prime time in the morning slot for 20-plus years, like my guy PK. Although I didn't totally buy into the manifesto 10 years ago, and I'm still around, so that's awesome.
The manifesto being what you understood that. I think you were probably listening live. What was that manifesto, and why do you reference that you're still around and that's a shocker?
I was listening live, and then the next time I filled in for David James, we pulled it out and we talked about it, if you remember. But David went on a long rant about soccer, and you better get on board or you're going to be out of a job.
Alex,
how it's taken over sports and how baseball is dead and all that stuff. Hey, we miss DJ. I love DJ. I can't believe it's just you. No Hatch, no DJ, just PK. All PK all the time. I love it.
Yeah. I think the gang will be back together again in a day or so. We'll see how that plays out. But I'm here. I'm always here. I may not be here, but I'm always on the air. How about that? Is that good enough?
Always good enough, PK.
So how much you getting into this hockey, man? Game 4, that was off the charts exciting. Unfortunately for the Mammoth and all that, they did not win. But if you're looking for entertainment, you got it in spades there.
Yeah, I mean, it is entertaining, and I think the Mammoth are an entertaining team. I think this community was ready for another major league sport. I think that's proving itself true with all these home games, PK, and the atmosphere everybody is just glowing about. So, kind of the cliche, oh, it's great to have playoff something back in Salt Lake City, but it's really true. And I think everybody's jumping on board because we've all kind of been waiting for something to jump on board with. And, we get used to it, PK. So many years the Jazz being consistently good, right? We have college football in the fall. We have NBA playoffs in the spring after March Madness is over, and we've been missing that. And now throw in a little NHL playoffs, and it kind of, I think it scratches us where we itch. Think about next year, PK. Maybe we have dueling playoff runs in the spring. I mean, how cool would that be? So
yeah,
I thought last night was super excited. The series all tied up at 2 apiece, and it seems like it's going to be a thriller.
Now you're a guy who's done shows on the plaza at the Delta Center across the street when there's NBA playoffs, and you have done it now when there's NHL, right? Because you did do it the other day. I don't know about the weather yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday the rain chased us off, right. But yeah, we were out there Friday.
Right. And so compare that. And I've only done basketball. I've done basketball many times doing shows on the plaza, but I haven't done hockey. You're like the one guy who can speak to this. Is my thought of talking to you this morning is how was it in terms of the atmosphere before the game, everybody hanging out and then walking into the arena as we get closer to start time?
So I certainly can compare them. I think it's a little bit unfair because it was the Mammoth's first time. And I think I saw our guy Wes Ruff who was saying, I've been to Jazz playoff games and I've never seen anything like this. I don't want to, let's not forget how intense Jazz playoff games are at that building. But I'll tell you what I did notice being on the plaza, PK, on Friday, is the time everybody showed up. Those plazas for Jazz playoff games get pretty packed. But what would you say is when it really starts getting crowded, like an hour and a half before tip, maybe 2 hours? Yeah,
for sure.
On Friday, PK, it was like 3.5 hours before puck drop, and that place was slammed. And they put a beer garden kind of thing outside where because of liquor laws they have to rope it off and that sort of thing. and it was elbow to elbow at like 4 p.m. So,
Really?
I mean, there was a ton of energy, and there was a ton of energy really long before the game. So, the pinnacle energy of a Jazz playoff game and a Mammoth playoff game, probably pretty similar, but I was impressed with the number of Mammoth fans that just came out to hang out hours before puck drop. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and if the weather's good for, what would that be, Game 5, Game 6, then they can have one more home game if they don't win the series. And if they win the series, then obviously we'll be back starting it all up again. But I was just interested to see because it seems like to me, at the epicenter, which is the Delta Center, that and watching reports and all and listening to you guys last Friday, that's what it was about. I don't know that I could put it on Jazz level yet because to me, we're thinking of Jazz NBA Finals too. I mean, that was off the charts.
Or remember when Derek Fisher, I know he's unpopular now, but do you remember when he landed and showed up late to the game and walked through the tunnel to play in the fourth quarter? I mean, that's as loud as I've heard that building ever. And let's not forget how raucous Jazz fans are, but the Mammoth are right there for sure.
Yeah, and they're still, they're remodeling the arena for hockey, so it's still only like 12,500 or so. That'll be increased as the project increases and gets done coming up here. So there'll be even more so. And I assume you guys, if the weather is good, have the opportunity to do those more. We'll see how the Mammoth, if they have the opportunity to advance, which would be way cool. You're a guy who's basically lived most of your life in Salt Lake City, the area, right?
Yes, most of my life, yes.
So with that in mind, you've obviously been a sports fan like we all have been. You can speak to this in terms of the community growing up. Just go back to when you were in high school. What year did you graduate?
1999.
Okay, 1999. So at that point, that was right around the time that the WAC, the two teams left the WAC, went to the Mountain West.
Yeah, the Mountain West. Yeah.
And they had good programs at that point, but Utah football was getting better. There's no doubt about it. I mean, BYU was still BYU with their large fandom, and we know that you can never go wrong talking about BYU on sports radio here in Utah. That's for sure. But Utah hadn't really grown up to the level that it did and has become. And the Jazz obviously had the finals. Utah basketball, U of U basketball was pretty good. But just think of yourself when you're in high school. Think to what we have now. We have pretty much high-level college football. Utah State's emerging. Basketball, BYU basketball. Utah, hopefully they can get back to where they were or at least get close to it. And then the Jazz and now the hockey. Could you have imagined if I would have told you, 27 years later, that we would be in this situation? Was that something that you could have conceived as a young sports fan when you were going to, I think at your junior year, I know you had to go to one of those alternative high schools, but your senior year, you were back in regular high school, right?
That's a joke that a husband of a teacher can make. Yes, absolutely. You sounded like you make it sound like it was always a pipe dream. I mean, I've been doing sports radio for 20 years, and PK, what's the layup hot topic always been? Can this market support another major league franchise? Open lines now. Yeah, of course. BYU's been filling that stadium since the 70s.
Yep.
It's the second or third biggest college football stadium west of the Mississippi. The Marriott Center is huge, 20,000. They've been putting fans in there. I mean, Utah football has really grown, and the crowds jumped on, after Urban really started winning football games. But they started that sellout streak that they've kind of, tried to keep going or have kept going. When did they start that sellout streak, PK? It was back when Urban got here, right? I mean, it's been a long time. I think this community has always been super passionate about sports. I think it's super passionate about sports now. I mean, I think what's enabled it a little bit is the numbers. So many. But yeah, absolutely, I would have seen this coming or would have predicted it 100%. Unless all of a sudden, in the late 90s, you thought Salt Lake was going to stop growing. But I think what makes us different than your beloved Californians, PK, is that we actually care.
Oh, that's a shot. That's a shot.
And we actually care about sports, and we actually care about what happens day to day. Whereas, you go to I've been to a game at Cal Berkeley. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I've been to a game at Stanford. Nobody cares. And I've been to a game at UCLA. Nobody cares.
I want to argue that, but I think you cherry picked a little bit though. You went to where there are college institutions that don't seem to have that much passion, and don't. Stanford at a time where it was winning. Cal has been kind of a middling program, and you got to go way back to where UC Los Angeles was winning. But, SC was winning, and they packed the Coliseum. And then Jake Scott joining us. You can hear him from 2 to 6 with Ben Anderson. Primetime Jake, as we call him now, that, I can speak to the professional levels. And let me tell you, there was no finer place to be, Jake Scott, than the Fabulous Forum in the 1980s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've heard you talk about the 80s Lakers before. Come to think of it. Have you had an opinion about that team in the past?
No, I was talking about the LA Kings.
Listen, if you're in a city the size of LA and you can't put 17,000 people into a basketball arena, I don't know what to tell you.
They could have put 17 million if it was big enough in those days.
Oh, dude, it just tells you how pathetic the Clippers are and always will be.
Well, you kind of got me there. So you win, and I believe it's a winner, not an iffer, that you believe that we'll just hit the stride as far as the big league community when MLB comes.
100%. Absolutely. I think, if and when, knock on wood, that happens. I think this community can be all on board. The Sunday thing was always, will they support a team on Sunday? Well, as we've grown and gotten more diverse, I mean, all those questions go out the window, in my opinion. I think as a community, we'll blow.
Yeah, I think that was
there. This hockey has proved, one thing, they can sell tickets to hockey and not take a bite out of the Jazz. And that was one thing that I was interested to see is, are you taking sponsorship dollars and ticket sales and all that from Peter just to pay Paul? And I think the answer to that over the first 2 years is that is not happening. So I think there is room for Major League Baseball, and I think absolutely our community would support it.
Wow, he's talking about Sunday play, then he starts referencing the Apostles. Look at Jake Scott go.
Oh, Peter and Paul. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. It's getting religious here, PK.
My show. Now that I don't have him to interrupt me, that freaking heathen pagan. I can talk about my faith. I'm awfully proud of it. You know what I mean?
I do. I do.
What will be interesting now? You said the Jazz haven't been negatively affected by the Mammoth, and it doesn't look like that's the case. We'll see how in the years to come. But where it's been, and I can speak to this growing up in the Phoenix area, or the second half of my childhood, not my first half, that if you want to trace to when the Cardinals got to the Phoenix area, there's a direct correlation for when the Sun Devils took a massive hit and have been basically just a 500 program from that time until now. They've had a few opportunities, 96, they went to the Rose Bowl, and then a couple years back, we know they had a nice season and went to the playoff and all that stuff. We'll see if Dillingham can sustain it as far as that goes. But that community, it's a crappy professional NFL team, but nevertheless, the college took a hit Now, we'll see how it goes. Now, it's not direct competition because it was college football versus NFL. I don't think we're in line for NFL even when we get MLB, and we'll have 3 major sports, and RSL doesn't play. They play a little bit in the fall, but at that point their season is winding down, and I think that's more of a specialty sport anyway. You don't see a time where if we get all these sports that it impacts the colleges negatively.
That's a great question. It could. Tell me, did the Cardinals take a bite out of Arizona State, or is Arizona State just run by buffoons and can't put a product out on the field that's worth watching?
There's something to be said for that. They had the coach there for many, many years, and they were really good. Sent a ton of guys into the pros, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't really following it to that level to know what leadership was doing in terms of not being competent. But at the time, in the 60s and 70s, they were the dominant team in the WAC, and then they go to and maybe it's that they went to the Pac-12. People actually think like Utah, there was a transition period where they weren't that good in the beginning, and people think that happened with the Devils. It didn't. They actually made a smooth transition, and where they first 5 years averaged over 10 wins a season, beat SC in the first year when they were ranked number 1. It was afterward. It was like 80. It was right when the Cardinals came. I'm telling you, it was literally right when the Cardinals came. And maybe the administration and they hired their own coaches or what have you, and it went in the toilet. And we'll see if they've got the right people now. Certainly the arrow is pointed up after that bumbling fool Herm Edwards went on his way and left in disgrace. And maybe the area is big enough. But historically, if you in big cities, SC had it going on. But then and they had the Rams there, obviously. Then they enjoyed a period where there was no NFL. And that's when the most recent time they dominated. We'll see if they can get it back. Lincoln Riley saying, "Yeah, it took us a couple of years to build this thing up." And like, oh my gosh, would you stop making excuses as to why you haven't been good? But nevertheless, that's the latest thing. We'll see if they can do it. I just wonder if we get big time here in another 5 years or so, if it'll be a negative effect on the colleges. I don't think so, but who knows?
Yeah, did the Rams, when they come back, take a bite out of your beloved Trojans? I kind of think the Arizona State thing is really interesting. Is it causal? Is it coincidental? I just know that when we were doing Pac-12 Media Days, PK, every coach that come around would remark, when we first started doing it, would remark like, wow, there's 6 radio stations here or whatever it is. It's because people care here and they're super passionate about it. And, our economy, local economy is doing well. So, hopefully, business sponsorships and people can afford tickets and that sort of thing. I mean, I think, as sports in general become more expensive, the conversation about pricing the fan out should be something that is talked about more often. But as far as support and numbers and those sorts of things, I think we're very equipped to go forward in this market.
Speaking of economy doing well, what are you doing with all that extra money now that you got that massive pay increase to go primetime?
Heating my house with it. I just put it right into the furnace, and it gives a nice heat, hot air throughout, and a nice smell throughout the rest of the house. Well, you need hot air and a nice smell, isn't that sure? For sure. Yeah. Right. Either the fireplace or the furnace, either one, depending on what we want to do. If we want to roast some marshmallows, I just, pitch a stack of 20s in there. And nice. Very nice. All right, Jake, we sure appreciate you getting up, joining us this morning. We'll hear you at 2 o'clock with Ben Anderson and the new in your second week in prime time, right? Last week was the first week. This will be the second week. And then, boy, when basketball season comes, it's going to be Jake Scott on the air for like 9 hours a day. Oh, boy. Can't wait. Because you and Tim will still be doing the basketball, right? That's the idea. All right, Jake. Thanks for joining us. We'll listen to you today. Appreciate your time. Patrick, you're the best. Thanks, buddy. All right, there's Jake Scott. When we come back, Mike Folta and PK looking ahead to Game 5. That's next.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1-, 3-, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Joining us now is the radio play-by-play voice of the Utah Mammoth, Mike Folta. Mike, I am still coming down from that game 4. In fact, I'm hydrating myself because I think I was dehydrated. Right now, as you tell us how you're doing, I'm going to take a swig of my Propel.
Well, I need some coffee, some Red Bull. Didn't even go to sleep. PK just pulled an all-nighter. Wasn't sure how many overtimes we were going to have, so just kept the candle burning. Thought, why not? Let's just keep it rolling into Game 5. What a scene at the Delta Center last night. No, it didn't go in Utah's favor, but it was an unbelievable game for a sports fan, a hockey fan. The Mammoth erase a 3-0 deficit. They come all the way back. They have a lead. We go to overtime. There's a goal called back. There's new life in overtime, and then Vegas does score to win it. And just quite honestly, PK, some emotions I'm not sure I've felt before working in this industry in that Game 4, and certainly with Utah, with how close things were and the intensity that we reached. But it was a heck of an evening. Mammoth Nation was unbelievable, powering Utah in that comeback, and now it's a best-of-3 series heading to Vegas for Game 5.
You know, obviously we are still in the infancy stage of NHL hockey in Utah, but if you're looking to sell the product, now obviously a win would have sold it better, but the next best thing, my gosh, was the game that you could possibly – I don't even know that you could dream it up. The way that started, the middle of it, and the way it ended. And even before when it ended, about halfway through the overtime, was it a goal, wasn't it? And they have the replay, and everybody's super excited there. I mean, in terms of a marketing ploy, outside of winning, which is ultimately what matters, in terms of excitement, I don't know that you could have sold anything better as a new sport here in the state of Utah.
No, it was our first taste of overtime in the playoffs, and it's a Monday night. It's a Monday night, and it's 11:30 or whatever it is, and everybody's still, having a ball at the Delta Center and revving it up and at the edge of their seats. And the thing is, PK, like playoff overtime, it's unlike anything we get in the regular season, that's for sure. But it's also just, it's that do or die sudden death that you only get in the postseason in sports. And in hockey, you can battle for 60 minutes in the regular season, and then if you lose in overtime, you walk away saying, oh, well, at least we got a point in the standings.
Yeah, right.
Like, not everything is lost. Whereas in the playoffs, we played 79 minutes, had guts and glory from the Utah Mammoth left and right, and the team comes away with absolutely nothing. Like, it's just the emotions of that and the fear of coming away with nothing as a fan just amp up the intensity all that much more, knowing what's on the line. That was a huge game. It was a huge game. If the Mammoth could have found a way in overtime, then you're up 3-1 with a chance to win the series in Vegas in Game 5. But as it is, now all of a sudden you're tied 2-2 in the series, and you got to find a way to win at least one game on the road. And the Golden Knights are now rolling with momentum, heading back to their home arena. So it was a huge swing game, and you can't replicate those emotions of playoff overtime without being in it.
No, I totally agree. That game itself had enough twists and turns and ups and downs and highs and lows to last an entire series, let alone one single game. You're thinking, okay, Vegas, we fooled around and now we're done. Now we're going to put it to these upstarts, right? 3-0. You're thinking, man. And it's just the first period. Is this going to be an embarrassment here? Is it going to be such a letdown before the home crowd? And then obviously, no, not at all. And then in the span of 1 minute, less than a half a minute, that right? Once it becomes 3-2, then it's on. It is just on. Yeah. It's at that point, it's anybody's game. And sure enough, they go and take the lead. But at that point, because time and score, 1 goal, but there was plenty of time for Vegas, I thought to myself, we're going OT. That Vegas is going to find a way somehow because they're going to be the more desperate team and laying it out on the line. Somehow they're going to get something in, maybe a fluke or what have you, or a traditional boom, blast one in. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I felt at that point we were going to go to OT. What was the feeling like in the arena?
At 3-2?
No, at 4-3. When
4-3.
When
the feeling
the Mammoth have the lead, but what I'm saying is there was enough time. It wasn't like there was 2-3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
My thought is, there's enough time. The way this game is gone now, it's just got to go OT. The hockey gods are demanding that it go OT.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying that because I totally agree with that. And technically, this is a blown lead loss for the Mammoth. Like they had the lead with a lot of time left in the third, and Vegas came back to tie it. But as you said, I actually texted my buddy who was listening back in the Midwest. He was like, "Let's go! We're in the lead. We're going to win this." And I'm like, "This game is not ending at 4-3. There's no way."
Right.
So it's not.
That's what I felt.
It was not your typical blown lead. Like there was just so much time left.
Right.
And you're not gonna make the Golden Knights flinch. Okay. Like they've been down in series before. They were down 2-1 in their first round series last year and came back to win that series in Minnesota in 6 games. They won 3 in a row to advance to the next round. So they think they can do that again this year. But they've come back in games all year. They've been one of the best comeback teams throughout the season. So you're not going to get Vegas to flinch when there's a surge or when the building's on fire. But talking about feeling things we haven't felt before, when Michael Carcone tied the game at 3, and when Clayton Keller gave Utah the lead at 4, like those were 2 feelings that we hadn't got before in a Mammoth game at the Delta Center. And so those were incredible feelings that despite the loss, like we'll get to hang on to for a little bit here. I do agree, though, and I think that I don't think anybody in the arena was like, okay, 4-3, let's kick back and just, defend the house, play prevent defense, and hold on to this lead.
Right.
There was no way that game was going to end at 4-3 one way or the other.
That's the way I felt, yeah, for sure. And I thought that. I watch the games at home because I got to get up so early in the morning that when the game ends, I need to get to bed as soon as I can. Obviously, with that being that situation. As far as now momentum, I realized that it was whoever was going to win, it was going to be dramatic. And certainly 3-1 is a lot better than 2-2. But I think it's even. Just watching the complexion of the series, the Mammoth have got to have all sorts of confidence. They've already won in Vegas. It's not like it was a fluke. You could argue they could have won, should have won Game 1. They win Game 2. Obviously, and, they win Game 3, could have won Game 4. It's anybody's game, flip of a coin. It goes down, as you said, 79 minutes, what have you. That with that in mind, in my mind, I don't give an advantage to anybody, even though the Game 5 is going back to Vegas. How do you see it?
I think it's kind of a choose your own narrative type of series because for Vegas, they're sitting over there saying – we've carried the play the last 2 games, and we we think we deserve to win Game 3, but the Mammoth won. We came out and we carried the play in Game 4, and we got rewarded with a victory. Now we're headed home, and we've done it before. We've come back in series a whole bunch. We're going to do it again. We're headed back to home ice. Like, we got them right where we want them right now. That's what Vegas is saying, because the series is tied 2-2, but I don't think you can look at all 4 games and say that the Golden Knights have not controlled play for a majority of the series. I think Utah was the better team in Game 2. That's the only game so far where the Mammoths have dictated terms for a majority of the game. Now, Utah deserves credit. It's not a fluke that the series is tied at 2 apiece, but you look at scoring chances created, you look at the quality of scoring chances created, and Vegas has done more than the Mammoths have in that department. Now, if you're on the Utah side and you're choosing your own narrative, you can look at Game 4 and say, look, we were pretty happy to just get to overtime in that game or even have a shot in the third period. We were down 3-0 to a really good team, 26 minutes into the game? I mean, it could have gone off the rails.
Right, you could have gotten smoked.
Exactly. And the Mammoths gave up the third goal. It's 3-0. Logan Cooley takes a terrible penalty, and all of a sudden Vegas is on the power play, up 3 Cobb, and I'm getting ready to pull out my joke book. I'm like, we're going to have to find a way to entertain the fans on the radio because the game itself is not going well. And what do you know? Utah gets a PK and they fight their way back into it. So I think the Mammoths taught us something last night, that they are not afraid. They are not afraid of the moment. They are able to come back in games. And even if Vegas goes up by a goal or even 2 goals in the next game, the next couple games, this team is capable of coming back. And that's a huge piece of belief to have and a huge piece of confidence to have for the Mammoths. Now, if they go down 3-0 in game 5, am I going to be feeling confident? No.
No, I got you.
It's pretty hard to erase those deficits twice in one series, but you've shown that you can do it, and I think it's a huge piece of belief to carry forward throughout the rest of the series.
Mike Folta, you hear him on the call for all the Mammoth games right here on our network. See, I can argue that, and I agree with the game 3, they were fortunate to win. Statistically, it doesn't work that way. It's like outgaining somebody in football by 300 yards and still losing. Normally there's certain stats that if you just look at a box score, you can sort of figure out who won without looking at the score. And this might have been the exception with the shot attempts and all that. But can I argue, except for stretches, maybe game 2, put that aside. But other than that, the stretches of good play have just been that. They've been stretches. If this team finds a way to put together a complete game, they're fine.
And it's also a stylistic thing, too. Like, I mean, if you want to put it in football terms, you're playing against a team in Vegas that likes to control the clock. They like to run the ball. They like to have the puck on their stick. And stylistically, I'm not sure how realistic it is to think that Utah is going to outshoot Vegas in every game or outpossess Vegas in every game, because that's what the Golden Knights do. They hang on to pucks. They can wear you down in the offensive zone because they're big and they can control possession. So the Mammoths have to be opportunistic in this series. That's not an accident that Utah has been able to score while not controlling a majority of possession. Last night, I think the Golden Knights had the puck in the offensive zone like 9 more minutes than Utah did.
Yeah.
That's a pretty severe difference. The Mammoths need to quell that a little bit. They need to not allow Vegas to control the puck quite as much. So look for that in Game 5. And I think Utah did a lot of good things in Game 5. It's not like they were dominating every single shift, right? And that's the thing we have to remember. But this Golden Knights team, like they had more stretches where I was scared than Utah had stretches where I was excited, if that makes sense.
No, I got you.
I think both teams feel okay heading into Game 5. I think Vegas feels like they've got Utah right where they want them, and I think the Mammoths are thinking, hey, we've won 2 of the last 3. We've scored 4 goals each of the last 2 games, and that's maybe an X factor in this is Carter Hart, the goaltender for Vegas. He was really good in the first couple games, but now the Mammoths are starting to get a few past him. Will he lay an egg? Will he steal a game? Like, which way is his play going to swing?
What did you see them doing in that stretch where they rally down 3 that they can continue to do? What is sustainable, I guess?
Well, they got some goals. They got a gritty goal to start things out. Nick Schmaltz. They scored a couple goals off the rush as well. That was the Clayton Keller goal to give them the lead. Yeah. But they moved the puck quickly, and we talk about the Mammoth team speed, and most of the time when we mean that, we mean skating speed, which is true. The Mammoth, just in terms of a skating perspective, are one of the fastest teams in the NHL.
Right.
But team speed also means the speed with which you move the puck. The puck is going to move faster than a player ever could. And so how quickly can you move the puck and make decisions? Is it on and off your stick, or are you holding on to it, trying to make that next read? The Mammoths, when they're using that quick decision-making, they might be the fastest team in the league when you combine their speed with their decision-making. And I thought the decision-making was very quick and authoritative when Utah was coming back in the game. And you look at – I'm trying to think back. You look at all 4 goals that were scored, and there were quick passes and quick movements by the players. You also had a few guys going to the net, too, like Schmaltz and Keller driving the net on the first goal. The second goal from Ian Cole was a slap shot from the blue line, but you had Alexander Kerfoot in front of the net with a bit of a screen. Carcone, the third goal, there was more traffic in front, and he was able to fire a one-timer. Good to see him get going, by the way, because he had been quiet in the series. Yeah. He fired a one-timer through a little bit of traffic, and it got past Carter Hart. And then the fourth goal, Keller just feeds one towards the middle, and Sergachev's crashing the net, and so there's chaos. Vegas is on all sorts of disarray, and it bounces in off one of their defensemen. So going towards the net and quick puck decisions, those are 2 of the things that I saw in those 4 goals.
One of the things that I like after a tough loss, or even if it would have been a great win, but more especially after a tough loss, is you get right back at it. We don't have to have a 3 or 4 day layoff, man. Let's get this thing going, get back on the ice, and away we go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, playing every other day now, we're done with the 2-day breaks, which kind of, throws you for a bit of a loop. But now we're playing every other day, and I would guarantee you the players have the same sentiment as you, PK. Like, just get us back out there. A day in between, it's enough time for everybody to get rest. Yeah. I mean, you had some guys play 30 minutes out there, which is nuts. I think Mikhail Sergachev played 30 minutes. You have enough time to get a break, but enough time where that hunger is still carrying over into Game 5. So obviously a massive game Wednesday, 8 o'clock Mountain Time coming up down at the Fortress, T-Mobile Arena. The Mammoths have already won there once in this series. They're going to have to win there again. You got to find a way to win 2 of the next 3. The way I see it, PK, you cannot have an exciting Game 7, and you cannot have a potential game-clinching scenario in Salt Lake City for Game 6 if the Mammoth win in 5. So we have everything right where we want it.
That would be awesome, man. I mean, I've always felt that, as I've watched playoff sports for years and years, that it's so much better if the clincher is played in the home stadium, the home arena, whatever it might be, and the fans are going berserk. As a sports fan, that just adds to it. It's not quite the same. You'll take it, obviously, but it's not quite the same winning the clincher on the road. So have that opportunity if they win tomorrow and then come back on a weekend, and wow.
Oh yeah.
This town, it'll be reminiscent of the Jazz, and we've seen some of that. I can see you guys weren't here obviously, and it's been a while since they've been in the playoff, but this town really just comes alive when there's an opportunity to have a closeout, and to do it at home, to do it in Salt Lake is just awesome.
Well, somebody call Phil Jackson and tell him to break out the earplugs, because Friday night, Game 6 is going to be absolutely insane. And I'll end with this, PK. I think the pressure is on Vegas in Game 5.
I think you can make that argument, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're feeling good about their game, and they have every right to. But they want to win this one to give themselves a chance heading back in Game 6. If they lose Game 5, then all of a sudden the Mammoths are going to be able to use that home ice advantage at the Delta Center to try and clinch. So,
right, I think they would need a mulligan.
What's that?
They would need a mulligan. They would need that back pocket. Coming back here down 3-2, no. Coming here up 3-2, that's a whole other story, because then you got a mulligan to play with. You want to close it out, but you still have got a mulligan in your back pocket if you need it. But being down 3-2 at that point, we're looking for momentum shifts. That would be the biggest of the series if the Mammoth find a way to be coming home up 3-2.
That's like me at Old Mill, a mulligan in my back pocket. I like to play a breakfast ball and a mulligan every 9. That's how I like to play. I offer the same to my partner, my playing partners. But that's my style. When
you see DJ, ask him, because he and I played that on Friday afternoon. We played 18, and the boy must have got tired. He struggled on the back 9, but and he's relatively new to golf, and he's made great strides for sure.
So you're saying I have to play with DJ before I can play with PK? Like DJ's the minor leagues. I have to work my way up before I get to the show.
Well, I've been playing since I'm 15 years old. He really hasn't. I mean, it's just that. So that makes a big difference. We played from the whites. I have a friend, and he wanted to play from the whites, and so I was. I think I was 5 over.
Wow, that's a heck of a round. I thought about bringing the clubs to Vegas, but it's a work trip, so we'll be dialed in. Game 5, a lot to mull over while we avoid the clappers on the Strip.
Well, I hope that we're talking to you next Tuesday about the second round series. We'll see how it goes. If not, we'll put a cap on the season. But I'm going to think positive for now.
Long way to go in this one. It is dead even. Best of 3 series, and it starts Wednesday, 8 o'clock Mountain, Game 5. Thanks, PK.
There is Mike Folta, radio voice of the Utah Mammoth. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NHL.
The Utah Mammoth are back at it tonight. Game 5 in Las Vegas. Series tied 2-2. PK, the anticipation keeps building. The drama keeps building. How can they top Game 4?
Well, they could win.
That would help. That'd be a positive.
I think that that's the most primary thing, obviously. That's cool music leading into that. I like that. I don't know where you got that. Is that hockey music?
Yeah, it's one of the networks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think you just got to keep doing what you're doing, man. I mean, that you should have a ton of confidence, right? You were on the verge of getting blown out in your own crib, and no, not only that, you took the lead. And we were talking with Mike Folta right there, because of the time left. I really felt like, okay, Vegas is going to find some way to score, that there was no doubt that the Mammoth needed to get another goal if they wanted to win in regulation, because I don't know how they were going to do it. It would be something bizarre, but some way, somehow that puck was going to go into the net. Sure enough, it did. And then we know what happens. And overtime, you hear that cliche in basketball or in baseball, sports that have Game 7s, anything can happen. Yeah. I'm not so sure that's entirely true, but I do think if there's a case to pick a portion of something where you can say anything can happen, I think that is overtime hockey. And so if you get to that tonight, I think they ought to feel good about their opportunity, and then you just see what happens, man.
If you want to second-guess stuff, second-guess the way that game started. And you just can't give up a shorthanded goal with a turnover right in front of your own net. I mean, that's the stuff that's controllable. You're right about the other stuff. There is a certain amount of, hey, the other guys are good too, and the puck does get on its side and start bouncing and rolling unpredictably. And shots do hit the pipe and they go in. It's so often we can't really see what happened. You need multiple replays to really slow it down.
I know.
And see what happened. But you can always hear that, right? That ding, and then is it bouncing in or is it bouncing out? So control what you control, which is don't give up the puck right in front of your own
right,
net.
And obviously
the
first goal was happening in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So this is a game. This is a series in which the experts said it's going to go long, and sure enough, they were right. It's going long. 6 games is a long series, and you really don't know what the freak is going to happen. I mean, you just
all the more reason to watch.
In basketball, you got your stars, right? And okay, they're going to have to do this and this. Baseball, you can get a little more random of some lesser player comes up and jacks one or whatever it might be. Hockey, good luck trying to figure it out if there's not a wide variance, which obviously there isn't here.
The Boston Bruins, backs against the wall. They stay alive. They beat Buffalo overtime 2-1. Minnesota's up 3-2 also. Buffalo's up 3-2. Minnesota's up 3-2 over Dallas after a 4-2 win. The winner of that series is getting Colorado next. And Edmonton, down 3-1, beats Anaheim 4-1. A rare good defensive performance from Edmonton. They only give up 1 goal. So they still trail 3-2 in the series, but they're still alive. And a couple early games tonight with Montreal, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh, Philly. Those games are starting. The Eastern games start at 5 and 5:30 on ESPN2 and TNT. And then at 8 o'clock, TNT, it's the Utah Mammoth.
Or 8:20.
You what?
At 8:20.
Yeah, it'll be 8:20. You're right.
Everything seems to be late.
Yep. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
Brunson taking his time across midcourt, marked by Alexander Walker. Handed the ball from Robinson left side. They go alley-oop. Robinson off balance, rises high and throws it down two-handed for a 20-point lead.
Sixers by 6. Here's Embiid. Into the lane on Kata. Spins, backing, turning, fading, firing up. Good. The Sixers get the bucket. Joel Embiid down low. Grimes to the 3 in the defense. Everybody comes off the bench to greet him.
Rebound Wembanyama. Ahead of the left side. Castle between his legs. Shovels to Victor. Throws it down. Left-hand jam. There you go. Victor Wembanyama. That is his second dunk of the night.
Highlights from the NBA playoff action where the Spurs eliminate the Blazers 114-95. The 2 seed, the Spurs, move on as expected. Boston, expect them to move on? Think again. Embiid played. He went wild. Philly wins 113-97 in Boston. Philly still down 3-2, but Boston lost a couple home games to the Knicks and got knocked out in the second round last year, have now lost a couple of home games to Philly in this series. And New York blew out Atlanta 126-97. The Knicks lead 3-2 in that series. Any of that surprise and interest you, or are you all about the new anti-tanking rule?
I mean, I think that, no, I don't care about the tanking rule anymore because the Jazz are out of it, and they can do whatever the crap they want. Honestly.
Now 16 teams going to the lottery.
Whatever. They're trying to fix something that I'm not sure is fixable.
They're going to fix, yeah.
So let's see what happens. But, I mean, my personal interest is gone because the Jazz aren't going to be involved in it. Maybe through some draft picks that they can acquire. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, I'll watch it. I mean, obviously you thought that Portland was going to lose and that I still think the Knicks are the better team. But there's not a team that can look so wildly different based on the availability of one player as the 76ers. And that one player is really good, but his availability has not been so good. But when Joel plays, he's really good.
Yep.
More often than not. I mean, he was 0 for 5 from 3, so that meant he was 12 for 18 from 2. And that's pretty awesome.
That is fairly awesome. And he gave him 8 assists also. I thought that was a little surprising.
Well, he's a great player.
Yeah. Yep. And, to the point about the Jazz, watching all of these and thinking about the Jazz, now Philly has a lot of guys who can score, right? Edgecombe, we've been talking about Edgecombe and what a good year he's had here in his rookie year. And Tyrese Maxey, clearly established. Paul George, veteran. Now they get Embiid, too. How do 4 guys score? Well, they don't. Edgecombe only gets 8 shots, and he gets 10 points. And so how does that work with the Jazz when they have 4 guys on the court next year who can score? Who gets squeezed out? How does that work?
And Philadelphia, if Paul George is going to be healthy, along with obviously Embiid, that can be a really good defensive team too.
Yep. Boston only 11 points in the fourth quarter for them. So
yeah.
So we'll see if Philly can win 2 more and come back from that 3-1 hole they were in there. The games tonight, Orlando, the 8 seed, can eliminate 1 seed Detroit. They're up 3-1. They play at 5 o'clock on Prime Video. And Cleveland and Toronto are tied 2-2. They play at 5:30 on ESPN, followed by the Lakers trying to close out Houston. Lakers up 3-1. That'll be a little after 8 o'clock on ESPN. So channel surfing during the breaks in the Mammoth game. You can check out and see how the Lakers are doing. The NBA has told the 30 GMs there's a new anti-tanking draft reform. 16 teams, flattened odds, a relegation zone. Actually, the 3 worst teams will have worse odds. So no reason to be in the bottom 3. Try to get yourself up to at least number 4. And then there'll be a group of teams there with us.
I don't know that I like that. What I do like is not rewarding perpetual suckitude, meaning you can't get the number 1 pick and you can't get a top 3 or 5 pick repeatedly. So there shouldn't be, trust the process. Okay, fine, but the process doesn't need to last as long as it could to reward that stuff. I don't have any problem with, going through a year like the Pacers, right? That happened. And so what are you supposed to do about it? Nobody planned on it, but injuries dictated as such. But then don't do it 3 and 4 years is what I'm saying.
There's a lot of things going on here. I'm not sure you can ever fix it. I'm with you on that. The reward, the top player, when the top player is really good, is such a big reward. Everyone's going to go for it no matter what the rule is. So I don't know that it's fixable. Some years it just definitely isn't fixable. I do think that maybe there'll be less tanking in the next couple of years because these last 2 drafts have just been loaded. We saw it with the way the top 5 guys in last year's draft performed in their rookie year. I think clearly this one could even be better possibly, which seems crazy to say, but that's out there to be as good or better. They're not all the draft classes are going to be this good, so that will maybe stop some teams from tanking because they won't be drooling over guys 4, 5, 6, 7, 8
I think there'll always be very good
are.
players at the top of the draft. With the advent of the foreign players becoming really good now, I don't know that I buy that. Maybe some drafts are deeper than others, and some drafts have an ultimate franchise player, but I think that's the best way to improve your team. And
Until they change the rules on trading, which I would like a lot more than this. Make it possible to trade so an owner is like, well, why do we have to tank 4 or 5 years in a row? Why can't we make some trades and let's go?
I think that's the story right there.
Yep. And why they aren't doing it, I don't know. It seems pretty clear, but that's not what they're doing.
Right.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college basketball.
Well, the NCAA is closing in on expanding the NCAA tournament, adding 8 more teams to go to 76 teams for both the men and the women. It's expected to be finalized in the coming weeks. All the stories I'm reading, it just sounds like it's a done deal. And implemented for next year, too, so it'll start right away. And PK, 8 more teams, so there should be less and less whining about making this tournament. It's getting easier to do. I'm not sure we need to see Oklahoma a couple games over 500 in the tournament, but that's what we would have seen last year, and that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I think that the power teams are going to get most of those.
Yep.
I'm intrigued with Dayton has been the first 4 and all that. Now they're going to go to 12 games by 24 teams at 2 sites, and 1 is expected to remain in Dayton. And then they got to have 1 on our side, so those
Salt
sports
Lake or
people.
Las Vegas?
I'd say right here, man.
We draw, but
Yeah.
people want to go to Vegas. So
yeah, but I mean that there's a lot of stuff going on at that time. So I mean they're keeping it in Dayton, so obviously Dayton works.
Yeah.
So have an opportunity. I think the sports commission or wherever the governor is ever in charge of it, they should make a run at it.
absolutely, why not? Put this place on TV every year. Bring fans in every year to fill up hotels and restaurants. Sure, do it. What do you got to lose? Go for it. Tyron Stokes, the top-rated prospect in this recruiting class. Kansas over Kentucky. He's going to be in the Big 12. We're going to see Stokes. He's the top-rated prospect. That doesn't automatically mean he'd be the top pick in next year's draft, but you got to figure he'd be somewhere near the top of it.
It's hard to get excited about that because you're looking at 30, 35 games at the most, and then he's on his way.
Yep, one and done. Yeah. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
I knew they were interested, but they wanted to make it private and didn't want people to know that they were interested. I had some secret meetings with Coach McVay. We met at the facility, and it was something to where we just talked for hours and hours, and it was just football. It was just straight football. I was told to not say anything, because I didn't want anybody to know.
Ty Simpson, first-round pick of the Rams. They get their next quarterback, and it's a secret. Hush-hush stuff, PK. Guess you don't want anyone trading up in front of you or picking them before, so keep it quiet, and they kept it quiet.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, who knows? If I'm him, I'm ecstatic to be in that situation. And there's thoughts of McVay wasn't happy and all that, and he's talked about retiring because he's already caught the rabbit. So who knows by the time this young man is ready to be an NFL starting quarterback, what the situation is going to be, and will he ever be ready to be a starting quarterback and win at a high level? So many times we've seen this or that, and it doesn't pan out, so who knows? But if I'm him, I'm jacked to be in this situation and have an opportunity to hang behind Stafford for a year or two and see where you go.
Maybe it'll work out smoothly the way we've seen in Green Bay a couple times, but Jimmy Garoppolo was supposed to be the successor to Tom Brady, and then he ended up getting traded because Brady was going to keep playing. So you can plan it, but doesn't mean it happens.
I thought Matt Castle was supposed to be his successor.
Matt Castle was another guy in that line, although Brady was younger at that point. So Pittsburgh Steelers placed the rarely used unrestricted free agent tender on Aaron Rodgers yesterday, ensuring they'll have the right of first refusal on any contract he might sign elsewhere. That preserves their right to get a compensation draft pick in the event Rodgers does leave and sign with another team. So we'll see. Aaron's taking his time again. Denver quarterback Bo Nix undergoing a second procedure on his surgically repaired right ankle during a follow-up visit. The procedure was expected. He remains on track to be ready for training camp. So no worries, nothing to see here. Of course, he missed the AFC title game after getting hurt. And Russell Wilson to the Jets, maybe. The Jets are thinking about it. They're considering it. They got Geno Smith. They also have a collection of other quarterbacks, but they might add Russell Wilson to the mix.
I'd go with Zach Wilson.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
They have a 6-0 lead. 2-2 is crushed. Left center field. This one on the way. This one is gone. Juan Soto punctuates a huge Mets inning with a 2-run home run to left.
Here's pitch. Swing on a drive deep to left. Oh, baby, he got this one. Giddy up and gone. Second deck. Hey now for the captain. It's 3-0 New York here in the ninth inning.
And the New York Mets
Dirk Jeter?
get another win. They beat the Nationals 8-0.
The new captain.
Oh, okay.
Here comes the judge.
The Yankees beat the Rangers 3-2. The Mets win 8-0. Everybody in New York's happy. More wins, more wins, more wins. Your Phillies fired their guy, PK. Second manager to go down this year. Thompson is out.
In April, no less.
Yeah, it's early.
Yeah.
And the Phillies are, right now, they're bad at everything. The pitching's bad. They're bottom 4 or 5 in ERA and in WHIP.
Have you seen their base running? My gosh, it's atrocious.
Yeah. The fielding numbers are terrible. It's just bad all around. So the manager's going to come in and change all that, or should we be looking at the guy picking the players?
Well, the players have been picked. I mean, I don't know that there's much of a change from, but then the team that won 95 games last year. So I don't know what's going on because the lineup is essentially the same. They've got a bunch of veteran guys signed long-term deals and all that stuff. So it really hasn't changed that much. So I don't know. I can't say what's up there. I'm not willing to throw in the towel because there's still a long way to go, obviously. And Dombrowski was with Cora in Boston, offered him the job. But Cora, as we talked about the other day, getting paid $13 million not to do anything, and maybe he has an opportunity to have the summer off. And they said Mattingly is going to be the interim, so maybe he just said, "Hey, I'm going to take a vacation. I'll see you guys next February."
Right. And you think about it, and how long has it been since he's had a summer off? There's all kinds of things to do in life in the summer.
None of these guys, these lifers, they don't. That's not possible. It doesn't happen. And so that's what I was thinking. That he's just thinking, "Hey, I'm just going to relax a little bit here and actually go see a July 4th fireworks show in probably has a house over there in Massachusetts somewhere. Go on the water and watch the fireworks over the water and have them the reflection in the water. That's always cool."
Yeah,
I've done that. I've done that in L.A. and San Diego, and so over there at the Mission Bay. So you have that opportunity there, but it's the way these things are, man. You can't fire 26 or 27, whatever expansion rosters are at now, and so you dump one guy and he takes the fall.
Salt Lake Bees lost to the Sacramento River Cats 5-2. Game 2 tonight. First pitch set for 6:35. Tony Park's on the call. That'll be on 102.7 HD2 and streaming at KSL Sports. The hockey game, the Mammoth and the Vegas Golden Knights, will be on 97.5 and 1280 The Zone. That is what is trending. It's brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up in our next segment, Pete Sousa, host of Inside the Big 12 and the Pete Sousa Show, will join us. At PK, just a massive story out of Texas Tech. They go and get Sorsby from Cincinnati, but he's been gambling, and before he was at Cincinnati, he was at Indiana. So now there's allegations he's gambling on Indiana games, and he's going to get suspended for the year. And what is Tech going to do? There's new rules, hard to acquire a guy. So where do they stack up in the conference now? We'll talk with Pete Sousa about all of that coming up in our next segment. Also, Ken Boehlke from Sin Bin Vegas is here to talk playoffs. Game 5 tonight. He'll join us at 9 o'clock. DJ and PK, Big 12 football next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
Welcome to This is Chase Scott and Ben Anderson.
President of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz. He is Austin Ainge with us here on Jake and Ben.
Both Nurk and Kevin Love kind of openly campaigned to come back next season. They're free agents this summer and can obviously choose wherever they want to go. But how much do you weigh that, a player who wants to come back when you've seen them before?
I think that's great. And like I said, they were awesome this year, so that matters even more. It's great. And I keep saying this to people, like, this is an awesome place to play. All the guys love it here. Like, Utah's a great place. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to be here. But I'd love to have those guys. I mean, they should maybe do a comedy hour on 1280. They're great. They're funny.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
DJ PK, we're joined now by Pete Sousa, host of Inside the Big 12 and the Pete Sousa Show. Pete, good morning.
Hey, gentlemen, good to be back with you. A happy hump day, a busy day in the Big 12. It's like we continue to get these storylines in the off season that are jarring, interesting, and always feed into the following fall. So great to be on with you.
Let's get right to the top of the league, Texas Tech. I think everyone expected somehow, some way, they would certainly be one of the top two teams and be back in the conference title game. And with the news that Sorsby is probably going to be ruled ineligible and gambling, and he'll be punished for that, and he won't get to play at all, there's a little flashback here with Ute fans thinking, wow, I know how we felt when we had Cam Rising until we suddenly didn't 2 years in a row. One season turned into an 8-win year, another into a 5-win year because they had multiple quarterback injuries. How far can Texas Tech fall because of this?
Well, it's funny, too. I'm sure the folks in Provo are kind of feeling the same way with flashbacks. Around a similar time last year with Jake Retzloff. You know, they went into training camp with a wide-open competition at quarterback, and Texas Tech could be in the exact same place. I think when you mention how far could they fall, they've got a decent backup in Will Hammond, and we saw him against the Utes last year show out and really almost take the job from Baron Morton. So that's a guy they probably won't have back till around week 3 because he suffered a season-ending injury last year, a knee injury. Behind him, you got a kid named Kirk Francis as a Tulsa transfer, more of like a caretaker quarterback. You're not looking for him to be the quarterback of your CFP team. So now it's interesting, right? Finally, the NCAA has instituted some rules, and they actually seem like they mean business. You can't get a transfer now. They have a thing, almost an outlier, called a ghost transfer, which you may be familiar with. But what that is outside of the transfer portal, a player could transfer schools, and that's a way that they could get a new quarterback. But if they were to find that there was any kind of tampering, you know, Joey McGuire, as the head coach of Texas Tech, could miss a large portion of the season, or the team could be docked a portion of what they make, right, their football income and their budget. So it's a whole new ballgame for Texas Tech. I really do believe, though, like a blueprint could be what we saw last year at BYU, and you just kind of got to see if you can hold the line until you hand the keys to Will Hammond, who was a guy who you were pretty excited about last season after that Utah game. But there's also a possibility, and I just want to finish the thought with this, that, you know, now this thing plays out in court. Like you mentioned, it looks like Sorsby will be ruled ineligible. Having bet on Indiana when he was at Indiana, if all this stuff is proven, that is just a non-starter. And then if you look at, okay, do we take it to court, right? Do we file an appeal? The NCAA is somewhat vulnerable nowadays. And, you know, you file an injunction and you get a friendly Lubbock judge, maybe you can get a situation where you have Sorsby playing on a week-by-week basis maybe, but you know, it all remains to be seen. But Texas Tech, I believe they're so strong in so many other facets of their game that they won't fall too far. And it is unfortunate what's going on with Brendan Sorsby. And I know folks in Lubbock are upset because they wanted a new offensive attack, right? They wanted to be a little more aggressive. And right now it doesn't look like that'll be the case.
You look at the lose on the defensive side, 6 guys get drafted, obviously Bailey leading the way, but I think that they had their entire line was really good there, and so they have to replace that. They hit the transfer portal, get several defensive guys. I'm wondering, as you say, that they won't fall that far because when you look at Morton, he wasn't exactly lighting it up. Now, we're just talking about Big 12. Obviously, when they got into the playoff, that offense stunk, but in terms of them being able to win the conference, I'm wondering, the first 3 games are winnable. You talk about like the kid from Tulsa, you know, he did have 12 starts, was a walk-on at Tulsa, local kid from Tulsa comes down. If he can just hand off and they can just maintain what they need, Hammond comes back in time for conference, maybe they're okay.
I mean, and that's it. They have one of the weakest schedules in the Big 12. People joke around and say like it's a Joey McGuire type schedule. But you got Abilene Christian, Oregon State, and those are your first 2 non-con games. And you start off with Houston, and then you go to Sam Houston. I mean, those are 4 games right there where, you know, maybe Houston's not anybody that's going to roll over. And then you have Colorado in October. So, like, they've got a soft start, you could say, compared to other teams in the conference where it does set up favorably for them to kind of figure it out before Will Hammond would be able to sort of under center. And look, like that team, it reminds me when I was a kid coming up in college, and, they used to say Florida State and Bobby Bowden, they didn't recruit, they would reload. And that's really what we're seeing from Texas Tech with this budget. Again, you can't make a move now in the spring to bring in a new quarterback, but you certainly brought in plenty of high-powered guns to perform for you on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that holds the line for you.
They have a soft schedule in the sense they don't play Utah and BYU, who are second and third behind them in the standings. And they do play three teams that were really bad last year. Oklahoma State didn't win a game, Colorado only won one, and West Virginia only won two. So those teams have a lot of improvement to do. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe West Virginia will take a big jump in year two under Rich Rod. So I get why people are saying it's the soft schedule. But they do play Houston, Arizona, and Arizona State, who all went 6-3 in conference last year. So it's not a complete pass here.
No,
I'm a little
it's not.
surprised.
Look,
the front half of it's pretty light except for that Houston game, and that does give Hammond a chance to get healthy.
Yeah, no, and Houston is pretty good. You return Connor Wegman. That team last year was very impressive, and the way that they bounced back every time you thought that you'd see them falter. Quietly, TCU's another team, right? They're the last game of Texas Tech's schedule. There are some teams in the Big 12, like almost you would call sleeper teams, who finished up with 8 or 9 wins last year, who people look at as, okay, that's a softer opponent, but it's really not. And those are sort of the rigors of the Big 12. I think one of the more interesting wrinkles to this story, and you learned this morning that Cincinnati is the possible whistleblower here, because there was a $1 million fight over a buyout. And Brendan Sorsby, we had heard about that after he had signed with Texas Tech through the transfer portal. Cincinnati wanted $1 million for a buyout, and there was a fight over that. And no surprise, now this stuff is coming to light. There's two parts to those allegations. One, people feel like Cincinnati may have had information that they covered up, and two, they were upset about the fact that they weren't getting the $1 million that they deserved, and that they had fought for out of Brendan Sorsby leaving. So there's a legal thing to this too that kind of forced them into this move. People are saying, and also there's one more thing. There's a Big 12 compliance-driven app that basically every student athlete has to download this. And so the Big 12 and other conferences can track your betting. It's called Prohibit or Prohibet. We'll play on words there. But so Cincinnati and other folks in the conference were possibly able to monitor some of this stuff and had seen some of it coming, which opens up a question to me, like, what took everybody so long? But nevertheless, you could see this stuff more playing out in court. But I was surprised to see that Cincinnati could have had a hand in all this. Again, that's just an allegation now, but it certainly is one that makes sense.
I'm still a little bit leery that they can't get anybody, because Cody Campbell's brother's cousin's uncle's friend can just go to somebody and say, and how can the NCAA stop somebody from over the summer just stop going to class at one school and say, well, I want to go here, and I'm just going to go there. And I have the right to go to whichever college I choose as long as my academics are in order and they accept me. And so, the McGuire and his folks can't do anything, but Cody Campbell's brother's uncle's son's cousin's friend can do it.
It is kind of funny. If you're Texas Tech, they've taken full advantage of this system, right? And now they're in desperate need of some help, and they run into a wall with like the first rule ever in 5 years. They're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And I think you're exactly right. I do anticipate some kind of legal showdown, and what we could see here, and I've been talking to people around this situation, like we could see some sort of precedent-setting move with the NCAA if Texas Tech is to get behind a player who they've offered $5 million to, and I'm still trying to figure out how that will shake out if he cannot play. But you would think that they're going to put a lot of their resources behind Brendan Sorsby to get him eligible. When you're going up against a unit like the NCAA, who a lot of people feel like have been grifters for a real long time. And they could be on their way out.
And what if everything goes, and that is kind of the Jake Retzlaff to Tulane story, and it worked that he found his way there in the summer, and they had a great season. So that could play. But let's just assume that they stick with Hammond. He played 8 games last year, but 4 of them are either bad opponents or such a small sample size it doesn't really matter. In 4 games, he was really good against the Utes. He was really mediocre against Oklahoma State, who was terrible, so that didn't tell him anything. He had decent stats against ASU, but they lost. Looks like he was okay running the ball, but not very good throwing against Kansas. I would say Texas Tech doesn't really believe in him. That's why they brought in Sorsby. But do you think, we see freshmen to sophomores, kids improve all the time. Could this all be a blip and Hammond ends up being really good? Do you have a feel for how much he might improve here with another year?
I think that it's the same, and that's what frustrates folks at Texas Tech, right? Like, it's going to be sort of the same situation as it was last year with Baron Morton, if Will Hammond were to be the guy, which it looks like that right now with all the rules that we know about. I think that it's more of a caretaker operation. That's kind of a lame term, but like, you don't ask your quarterback to do too much and you lean on the other strength of your team. Now that's a situation that puts Texas Tech right back in that college football playoff disaster that we talked about at the top of this conversation, right? Like, you are pedestrian offensively and you can't score. That is a ceiling that they could hit with a quarterback like Will Hammond. You were hoping a Brendan Sorsby would help you break through that ceiling. So do you have someone that can maintain a status quo at quarterback through the regular season and what we kind of all agree on is a relatively soft schedule? You do. But is he going to take you over the mountaintop or to the mountain, right, and get you over the hump? I don't know. I don't feel great about that. And look, this is where BYU last year had an ace up their sleeve with Bear Bachmeier, because they had a wild card that really no one knew how he would do. And then we see 3,500 total yards, 26 total touchdowns. We couldn't have expected it to be that good. I don't think anyone did. And I don't know that there's a player on Texas Tech's roster that could achieve like that. And there's no real question marks, right? Like, we've seen Will Hammond, we've seen Kirk Francis. We hadn't seen Bear Bachmeier. And that was sort of the exciting part about it, sort of mysterious. So Texas Tech, I do feel like there is a ceiling with a guy like Will Hammond. And it could be sort of – it really shows that it'll be more difficult for them to break through this season, even though they added a piece in the offseason that they thought would be the answer. But now it looks like that answer has been eliminated, for right now at least. Who knows? It's like as the world turns with this stuff.
In this current configuration of the Big 12, trying to handicap it has been very difficult. 2 years ago, the Sun Devils, who were picked 16th, ended up winning it, and Utah and Oklahoma State, for varying reasons, both weren't very good. And then it was so embarrassing that they decided to not even have a poll the next year. And you had Houston and Arizona jump up there and maybe surprise. So try to handicap the conference this season. You put BYU too with the Retzlaff situation. I don't think very many people had them in the conference title game. But trying to handicap it going into the 26th season, that's where I think it may work in Texas Tech's advantage, is that who knows what's going to happen. The point is, this conference through 2 years has been really crazy.
It has been. And sometimes I think looking at the schedule can give you an idea, right? Like of who has opportunities and who doesn't. Regardless of schedules, I like what the Utes have going, right? You got Devin Dampier coming back. Morgan Scalley's a hell of a coach. I'm actually really excited to see him get his opportunity. Houston's another one we mentioned. 10 wins, 3 losses last year. Willie Fritz is as good a coach as there is. Arizona surprised everybody last year. You know, they finished 9-4. So there are some of these teams that have been outliers in the past, outside of Utah, those teams I mentioned, that we could see. Even Baylor. Baylor's got the best quarterback, one of the best transfer portal quarterbacks, right, outside of Sorsby, really, and DJ Lagway. And one thing that Baylor has, they got 29 incoming transfers, and they have Jake Spavital, who is probably one of the hottest offensive minds in all of college football. Like, Jake Spavital is almost the reason that people are saying Sawyer Robertson may not have gotten drafted, because they look at Robertson's numbers and they say, he was in a situation where he could elevate to that level. Now I think Sawyer Robertson's going to make the Raiders as their third quarterback. But you look at Spavital coached Fernando Mendoza at Cal. I mean, he's a guy that is a real high-profile coach that is an ace up Baylor's sleeve, you could say. So Baylor's another team that you could find in the mix. And Rich Rod, another year at West Virginia, they finished sort of strong. But it's the same deal. I mean, DJ and PK, you guys nailed it. Like, when we come down and get ready for this season, when we're at media days, like, we don't know what side's up every year, really.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. And I think what we would all like to see, and this is me just from being a conference homer, let's win a game or two in this college football playoff, and let's get 2 Big 12 teams in there. Let's get it this year so we can have BYU and Texas Tech. Where we're not sitting here figuring out why we're hamstrung.
Yeah.
Pete Sousa joining us, host of Inside the Big 12 and the Pete Sousa Show. I think this is where football coaches get really jealous of basketball coaches, because a basketball coach in a similar situation, they got this other free agent pool with foreign players, and you might be able to pull a rabbit out of a hat by going overseas and finding somebody. At football, you don't get that. It's like they are just painted in such a corner right now at Texas Tech, and everybody here is kind of shrugging like, yeah, been there, done that, it's your turn.
Yeah, and that's why I think, that's such a good point about the foreign players, because those players there was no option for them to play college football earlier because they wanted to get paid. And so a guy like Luka Doncic would just go right to the NBA. Nowadays, a guy like Luka Doncic might be playing at BYU, right, for at least a year. And it's a different ball game now. With what you mentioned about Texas Tech and their inability to really run out and just go to the supermarket and grab a great quarterback, I do believe that's why we will see the legalities of this thing play out. Like, I've heard people around the school talk about how they're going to fight this, right, and they're going to support Brendan Sorsby, and they got a ton of resources at Texas Tech. And you get a friendly Lubbock judge, like we talked about earlier, and you can get those injunctions that can keep him eligible to play. And I don't know what that looks like all year long, if that's like a situation that you want to deal with. It sounds like a bit of a roller coaster ride, emotionally and physically, for a football program. But that's an option for them, right, to break out all the big guns. Cody Campbell's brother's cousin's uncle, who's an amazing attorney in Lubbock, who knows the judge, right? Like that's we've seen that happen before, and that's what makes this stuff so entertaining in a kind of underbelly way.
None of us knew for sure if Indiana would go undefeated or not, even as they started piling up the wins last year. But the one thing we all know is billable hours are undefeated. That's what we know right there.
They absolutely are, yes.
Pete, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us and trying to sort out the Big 12, which really can't be sorted out. We'll have to wait for the games in the fall.
Yeah, one more thing. You know that Texas Tech will be in trouble, or that this whole thing will be ended if Brendan Sorsby enters that supplemental draft. And we will have an answer on that by June.
Right.
So that will kind of give us a heads up on the legality. But, DJ PK, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you.
All right, listen to Pete Sousa on the Inside the Big 12 podcast, the Pete Sousa Show. You can get Pete's take on Big 12 football. Pete, thanks so much. DJ and PK, we're taking a break. The question of the day is coming up at the top of the hour. Ken Boehlke, Sin Bin Vegas at 9 o'clock to talk playoffs. It's Game 5 tonight, the Golden Knights and the Mammoth. That's coming up. Stay with us.
The playoffs are back in Utah. In only their second year in Salt Lake City, the Utah Mammoth are in the NHL playoffs, and your home of every second of every moment of Utah Mammoth hockey is right here. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, as the Mammoth make their run to a Stanley Cup. Keep it right here on the Zone for the best coverage of Mammoth hockey. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to Jake and Ben for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. We just had on Pete Sousa. If you're just hopping on the show now and you missed it, he does a show Inside the Big 12, and he jumped on to talk about the quarterback situation at Texas Tech with Sorsby apparently about to get suspended for the year. And so what does that do? And PK, it makes the race really intriguing, but if you need a super team to help get multiple teams into the playoffs, and to make a run and win some games in the playoffs, this is bad news. It could make for a wildly competitive, entertaining regular season, but it appears to be a shot across the bow as far as a playoff run. Who knows? Kids get better, and we've been unable to predict the Big 12 the last couple of years, so we'll see.
Right. And so you look at surprise teams going back 2 years. Nobody thought Levitt would be that good, right?
Yep.
And he rose up and was pretty good. Last year, now Fafita was a proven commodity for Arizona. So that was sort of the traditional way of a kid staying with the program and going through hard times and then coming out the other side. And I suspect him being a senior, he'll have an opportunity to be really good this year again, because I don't know, with his size may limit him as an NFL kid, but I think as a college kid, I think he's really good. And now he's got all sorts of experience, and they've got a second year, a third year actually, with that system there. So watch out for them. But, you got a kid like this Boehlke kid who played for Kentucky coming over to ASU. They did really well in the transfer portal. They're sort of flying under the radar, and that program clearly has taken a page out of the Kyle Whittingham playbook. We're better when we're underestimated rather than thinking that there's all sorts of high expectations. So I think they have a potential to be a sleeper, or at least be competitive, because even last year when they had all sorts of injuries, as you said, they went 6-3 and they were the only team to beat Tech. So that leads to that they should be a tough out. Not saying they're going to be all that, but they should be a tough out on any given Saturday. Baylor reloads. You still have the two Kansas schools. Big changes at Kansas State. That's just a mystery there when you make these changes like that. But they have the opportunity to be competitive, and I do think potentially it could knock down Texas Tech to an extent, but we still could have teams. I mean, Utah was really good last year, as we spoke about, and they've got the kid coming back, and if he stays healthy, he's going to be dynamic. And they can talk about, they've got this great receivers room. It seems like that's an annual story that never really pans out and fizzles out, but this kid is so dynamic that I don't necessarily know that they need a big prolific passing game because of the way they can run the ball with their running back coming back too. So I think there's an opportunity for teams to get in there and maybe find some success in the playoff. I mean, obviously Texas Tech didn't do it last year. And I do think that if you knock on the door a bunch and you have another good season collectively, I'm speaking, that they just can't repeatedly keep you to one team. Now, maybe that's just me hoping for the Big 12 gets in, but I think there's an opportunity there. And you got to do it on the field. That's the big thing. But I think there's enough talent in the conference to have that opportunity to do it on the field.
That is a possibility. It is a possibility that this plays out the way it has for Utah and BYU, where you can have some success. And, the Utes did win 8 games the first time Rising went down, but there was a ceiling of what they could do when they played the top teams in the conference. And BYU obviously had some success last year, but there's a ceiling on what they could do when they played Texas Tech. I think the point you made with Pete, well, it's not just the quarterback. The rest of the team, Utah and BYU just couldn't block Texas Tech. They couldn't block them, so what are you going to do? And the rest of that Tech team should be pretty good. Maybe you get a better draw in the playoffs. I think drawing Oregon, who the last 2 years I think is clearly been the second best team in the country. Maybe Miami has an argument and they were the third best last year. But the only games they're losing, they've lost 3 games in 2 years, and it was twice to Ohio State when Ohio State won it all, and once to Indiana when Indiana won it all. Or no, I guess it's the other way around. Once to Ohio State and 2 to Indiana. So it's just they're only getting beat by the best of the best. Maybe you won't draw them. Maybe somebody in this league gets the Ole Miss story. Trinidad Chambliss, we didn't know who he was last year at this time. He only played a little bit in the first 2 games. He was not the starter. He was a backup. But then he gets the job, and they get a run, and they don't draw Oregon or Miami right out of the gate. And they win 2 playoff games before they finally lose to Miami. So there's a lot of potential storylines out there.
There are, and I'm excited for it once it begins, yeah.
Yep. All right, DJ and PK, we got to take a break. The question of the day is next. We also have tickets to give away in the 8 o'clock hour. Stick around. It is a Win Tickets Wednesday. We got a pair of tickets to Live Nation's Summer of Live at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. We'll give those tickets away coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. And Ken Boehlke from Sin Bin Vegas to talk NHL playoffs and Game 5 tonight. He'll join us at 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Join Scotty G and the coach tomorrow, 10 to 2, Tim Daly Mazda. 10785 South Auto Mall Drive in Sandy. Join them tomorrow. DJ and PK, here we go. It is Game 5 tonight. And PK, doesn't get much better than this. Game 4 didn't convert you to hockey. What will? Lance is converted. It's so cool to see it on TV and realize it's our team and it's our city. Lance is feeling the pride. He's converted. He's on board. But Vernon says the only thing that'll do it is a championship in the Stanley Cup. Aren't people ready? Aren't they there yet? It's go time, isn't it?
Well, I think that for folks in this state who are natives, like Yak, we aren't, but they take a lot of pride in what happens in the state of Utah. Ryan Smith just talks about that. Larry Miller, obviously, that tradition has been, or that feeling of the being a native and growing up here. I guess you don't literally have to be a native, but this has got to be home without question. Like for me, I've lived here for a long time, but it's still not really totally home. Well, if you're from here and you're not from any other place, there's just no doubt. And a lot of people are like that. I happen to be one of those guys who's lived in 4 different states, so it's really hard to claim a singular home. But for those who do claim it, it really means something. And their sports teams, particularly on the national level where you're not worried about the BYU-Utah thing, that really they take great, great pride in that. So that first post that you read, I can see that. It's really cool for them. This is our team, our city, our guys, all that stuff. Yep. That means something because the place has grown. It's continuing to grow. But relatively speaking, we're still a smaller entity. And also, too, we've talked about you travel from Boston to Baltimore is the time, if there's no traffic, that you can travel from here to Las Vegas. Well, from here to Las Vegas, you don't pass a whole lot. There, you pass major cities, all 3 or 4 of them on the way. So we're still isolated geographically, and that gives us a little bit of separation. It's why I say that if the Jazz ever won one, in my mind, it's at least as good as 5, if not more, for the Lakers. Now, if the Mammoth, if they can get there, probably not this year, but we'll see what's down the line, that it really means something because it is our own and it's a representation of this city and of this state.
Jeff, a win would have probably helped me get into hockey, but attending just one game did the trick for me.
Yeah.
So Jeff acknowledges everybody loves a winner, but feeling the magic inside the arena, all that energy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. Talking to people who were in the arena. I was with somebody last night. You were with him last Friday, and he was inside the arena. And, yeah, there's a big-time buzz. We were talking with Gordon yesterday, and I wanted him on because I knew that he was, as a kid, he got into hockey back in the Philadelphia area with the Broad Street Bullies and the Philadelphia Flyers, and now it's sort of like a little bit back to the future type thing here with him, because he was inside the arena a couple of nights ago when the game was played, and bringing back feelings of when he was a child and a young lad and getting into hockey. And the funny thing is, right, we're down at Southtown. We're going to meet those friends I just told you, you know who they are, you know who he is, and we're going to meet him over at Roadhouse, right? And so you come in off of, 106 there at that stoplight, and you turn to go north, and you see the facility that they're building. And then we're going to turn left to go over to Roadhouse, right? And as we're turning left, you can see the entrance, and there's a little kid, and he's got a duffel bag, and it's an adult dad, I assume, and he's got a stick that is like 3 times bigger than him. And he's walking into the building, right? And that was really cool to see, because obviously what he was going into was to do some skating and do some hockey. So I don't know if it was a game or practice or whatever it was, but that's what this community can turn into. And Gordon and I were discussing it yesterday as far as, do you think it could ever turn into what the Jazz have in terms of the basketball, and not really just the Jazz, but it's about the sport of basketball. I said, I think it's hard, because I was watching the other day, Monday, when it was raining like crazy, and I've been meaning to watch that Jerry West documentary that they've been talking about. And I got back from the gym, and about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I said, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. I don't really have anything else to do. The hockey game is not until later, and so I can take the couple hours and watch it. And Jerry talked about, a lot of it was him speaking, and he talked about, he tried to go out for football as a kid, and they didn't have gear. The helmet was too big. He was so small. The helmet was like he could turn it into a 360. So he got out of football, and then he went into basketball because he didn't have a lot of friends. He was a loner, and he could just shoot by himself, right? So I think basketball, it's easier to just go participate in the sport, even if it's a small degree, by yourself. I know I did that. Both my parents worked when I was growing up, right? And so I would just, when the weather was okay, even if it wasn't, I would just shoot endlessly by myself, because I'm a loner too. My sisters were older. They'd long since moved out of the house. And so we had a hoop in the backyard, and I would just shoot endlessly. So I think that the sport of hockey makes it a little more difficult to be on your own, whereas basketball, that's one of the reasons why I think it might be popular. I think it might be hard to catch it, but there's no doubt hockey can make inroads in this state with the Mammoth, and what they're going to do in the community, in addition to winning games on the ice, is going to lead the way, and people are going to get more involved in it.
When you say, can it be like the Jazz, the first thing I thought was, well, are you talking about the Jazz today, or are you talking about the Jazz in 98? Because the thing that happened in the 90s that isn't going to happen again is that there weren't as many people and there weren't as many teams. And so literally everyone congregated around the one team we had that could put this place on the map in that kind of way. Now, going forward, assuming we get baseball here in 5 years, it's just going to be a different deal. And different people are going to, depending on their background, are going to go to different sports, and that'll be the primary thing for them. So I think having more teams is a factor. I think you're right about the access to the sport. Can you play it by yourself? Can you just go out and shoot in your driveway, or do you need a ride to wherever the nearest rink is? And I think the Mammoth get this. I think Ryan Smith gets this. I think that's why he made that offer to municipalities about, hey, if your city will build a rink, we'll throw some money in and make it happen. Because if you have that experience of, walking in, and this because you know it when you cover the Kings, and you walk into hockey and it's cold. There's like a chill in the air. It's something, it just gets you right away. If you can't even see the ice, it's different. And so when you get to the point where people are having that response, and that just triggers, like you said, the memories for Gordon, you walk in and the building's got a certain chill, and it brings these memories flooding back. That's kind of the magic that they need to create. And the winning and the energy in the building, I think that's where it is very similar, and they can get it. Now, how widespread does it get? Tell me how many rinks they are, how many kids grow up having that experience. And they're trying to recreate it. They're trying to do the same thing they've done with junior jazz with hockey. So you got to give it a few years and let those kids grow up. And, then they're taking their own kids to the ice. So over time, it could really build, assuming they're good, and it looks like they're going to be good for a while.
Yeah, I think that when you speak of widespread, it won't be as widespread.
It really can't.
But it'll be
wide. Have as many rinks as you have gyms.
It'll be widespread enough.
You're right, yes, especially because it's not just the playing it. I didn't play hockey, and I wonder what percentage of the people in the building didn't play hockey, but they're still having a good time there. Now, the people who did play hockey, and I know some of them who've grown up and their kids have been playing it, and it's a high school sport as a club. It's not UHSA sanctioned, but the people who are into it are way into it. And I know some of them, and some of them were on social media. They were absolutely beside themselves during that game. And they're going to talk it up. They're going to be talking to their friends and neighbors, and that'll help draw people in because it is about a sense of community. It is something you do together with family and friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
So that'll help sell it.
Yeah, I think that, like, if you were to take ratings, what is it? You said it was on TNT or TBS tonight? Is that what you said? Whatever channel it's on. If they can get the local ratings here and the in-state ratings, I think that will be pretty awesome. The one thing, though, that I think that plays against it is it takes long. And you can't, if you got to go to work the next day, it's hard to stay up.
Yes, and I think that's a big deal with the youth, even aside from that. The number of people
kids,
I know, including my own kids, but tons of other of their friends are like 2 hours is their limit, and even that is pushing it. My kid would watch a lot of football, but he was watching the second half of games. And when the next game would start, he'd be like, this is like 3 hours. Now, you know, he flips on the TV, and it's, 21-17, early third quarter. Yeah, you got him for an hour and a half. But 3 hours, 2:45, that's a long time. And we just saw it with baseball. Baseball shortened their game, and but change turns people off a lot of times. People are comfortable with what they're comfortable with. But, man, they made a major change putting in a pitch clock. That is a big change, but that was just universally embraced. And it cut half an hour off the games, and it made everything better. It's just more popular. Everybody loves it. You got to move it along.
Yeah, I think that's different. You're talking regular season. I'm talking playoff when people want to. When they want to be involved in the whole game. A regular season, you got one of 82 and you miss a few. I mean, everybody does. It's no big deal. But in the playoff, you want to watch it. But when they factor into overtime and they're ending at 11:30 at night,
yikes.
And kids got to get up and go to school, and then they may have, if they play sports, they got a 6 a.m. workout and whatnot. And if they got a 6 a.m. workout, that means you as a parent, you're going to be up.
5:30 car ride.
Yeah, and so, or even if they can drive, you're still going to be up. That's just the way it is. So I think that the nature of the sport and then taking these 20-minute breaks, it's an evening of long commitments, and I think that it's not going to change. So it's not. I don't think the commissioner is going to say, "Well, we're going to have speed up rules," because the actual time of playing in the 20 minutes goes by pretty fast. It's just the breaks and all, and then obviously the chance of having overtime leads it to a little bit more difficulty. Whereas basketball, pretty much 2.5 hours that's all you're going to get. Even if it's a 5-minute overtime, that goes by in a blink of an eye. So those are reasons why I think that can get in the way. But the good thing about it is coming home for Friday, most folks don't have to get up Saturday morning. So I think that that's just growing it even more. And even if they lose this series, this is going to be a bonanza in terms of growth of the sport and with popularity in the community. And people are going to get involved, and they're going to get hooked because it's dramatic. Playoff hockey, playoff overtime hockey is extremely dramatic, and that's what we want. The bottom line is we want entertainment, and this sport at the playoff level is entertaining.
And I think the thing that is not only is the game entertaining, but the show around the game is entertaining. The introductions are dramatic. When they win and they bring out the 3 stars at the end of the game, that's dramatic. From the lighting to the music to in the playoffs, all the towels and all that. And the energy is so good. And people are paying a lot of money to be entertained. It doesn't matter if it's concerts. It doesn't matter if it's the NBA or the NHL. Paying a lot to go to BYU. We just heard about that with them renewing the football tickets and the basketball tickets. So people, they want a lot. But it really seems like the show delivers a lot. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And the last 2 playoff games prove that. But the show both nights was really good. And that's something they are focused on for sure. I mean, kids love the Mammoth. I mean, that's just, the Mammoth and the Zamboni. It's silly, it's goofy, but it's part of the show, and it's entertaining people.
But that's just the folks in the arena. I think your sport wants to grow far beyond the folks who are in the arena. Because if you're in the arena, most likely you're already in.
You're already in because
you're
taking,
and you're going to the game, and then just the time commitment. I'm talking about the folks who are now being exposed to it at home, which I've had a lot of. Just it's anecdotal type situations. It's no scientific study. I'm not conducting a poll of a man on the street type thing, but just folks who are talking to me about it. That they're not going, or maybe they have gone or a time or two, but they have been gripped by watching it on television. That's where the explosion of what this thing has done already, even if they lose, it has been a wildly successful Mammoth first year, so to speak. I know they were there last year, but the identity of the Mammoth has really, really caught on. And it's only going to go up from here. It's not going to go down because we know the team is set up to win for the foreseeable future, or at least be competitive for the foreseeable future.
That all seems like a guarantee. And I know there's no guarantees in sports, so we ought to be careful about saying it. But with the young guys they've got in the minors, with the young guys they've got on the club, and with their ability to make moves and add players, which we've seen on multiple occasions here, just in the 2 years they've been here, they've made several moves and added several key players. The Sergachev deal, that was clearly a big deal. The Paterka move, that was an aggressive move. They've made other moves and brought other guys in. So you're right. The arrow is up, and it should stay up at a reasonably high level for a while. The jump, as Pablo always tells us almost every week when he's on, the jump from good to great is tricky. But they ought to be good for a while. And now can you get to very good or great? Well, time will tell on that.
Yeah, I think they will. But things got to continue to health-wise and so forth. So the best thing that can happen is win this series here and see what happens in the next one, who you play. We don't know right now, but we obviously don't know if they're going to win. But if they manage to pull this off and find, obviously they've got to win a game in Vegas, which it's not insurmountable by any stretch, would be really cool. As I was talking with Mike Folta yesterday, go ahead and win tonight and then come back on a Friday night. And we were joking yesterday, man, the Coke Zeros would be flowing.
All right, it's TNT tonight, 8 o'clock or 8:20. And then Friday night when they're back home, it's 8 o'clock or 8:20 on ESPN. And then Sunday, if it does go to a Game 7, which, hey, they were tied at 1, they were tied at 2, they might be tied at 3, might have a Game 7. That one's still to be determined. We'll see what they do if it gets to a Game 7 in Las Vegas. It'll depend on what happens in some of the other series too. All right, DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're getting a lot of reaction, PK. Ute and Cougar fans very intrigued by what is going on at Texas Tech and what it means for the local teams. We will get to that next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We had Pete Sousa on earlier this morning, Big 12 Radio. He does a show all about the Big 12, and we were talking with him about the Brendan Sorsby situation, the former Indiana and Cincinnati quarterback transferring to Texas Tech, but now allegations that he's gambling on his phone, and then he was in Indiana. He gambled on Indiana games. And so now there's all these stories about how he's going to get suspended. He's not going to be able to play this year. There is a chance that he goes to court and gets that lifted, so we don't know anything for sure. But if he is out, how much does this situation help the chances for BYU and Utah? And PK, just because it's a serious question with serious implications doesn't mean that the rivalry can't trump all these other things. Am I right?
It do.
Cheese Fries, who's a huge Ute fan, it doesn't help BYU. It pretty much guarantees Utah will make the Big 12 championship game.
I think it helps everybody.
First-string bench warmer at head bench warmer. For BYU, they don't need the help. For Utah, it won't matter. So there they are. We got that out of the way. The Utes and Cougars have both taken their shots at each other.
I think it helps for 15 teams. But I also think that this is not necessarily a devastating blow to what Texas Tech is trying to accomplish. Now, Sorsby is really good. I came back from last year talking with him at Big 12 Media Day and talking to others about him, that he's really good, and I like him. And if I were his people, I don't know, depending on, does he want to stay because he's got the financial situation if he plays, and if he doesn't, he doesn't get that money. So that factors in it. But from a football standpoint, go ahead, take care of this rehabilitation or therapy, whatever you want to call it there. I don't know what it would be called. But go through that and make yourself eligible for the draft. They have that supplemental draft, and you have that opportunity because I think he will make an NFL roster at some point and then go from there. So he can recoup that money in the NFL if he stays for a few years. But if he wants to fight it and Cody Campbell wants to get involved or whatever it might be, so be it. But just for the sake of argument, assuming that he's not going to be on the team, I don't necessarily think it's a devastating blow, but I do think it can potentially knock them down a peg, which therefore could improve the chances of the other contenders, whoever they might be. And as we sit here right now at the end of April, I do believe Utah and BYU will be competitors to get in that conference title game. And we were talking about this yesterday. Sign me up right now if the first Friday in December at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, it is BYU versus Utah. That would be absolutely awesome. I would take that all the time. Yeah. Maybe when I'm done working, that might be another story, but I'm not, and not intending to anytime soon. So with that in mind, I would love to see those two teams. And I think that it is a possibility, but it's no more of a possibility or any less of a possibility than probably about 10 other scenarios.
We do have plenty of people saying that this ups the chance of a BYU-Utah rematch in the conference title game.
I think
that has occurred to multiple people.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, you said Utah and BYU are competitors, and I think that's a widely held view, that they are certainly both in the mix for the conference title game with Tech. But how much wider does that circle get? As far as Pete was talking at Baylor, I think Houston, off the improvement they made last year, you got to put them in the mix. What about the two Arizona schools?
I put them in the mix, yes.
Yeah. So now we're 7 deep for 2 spots.
Right.
And that's assuming that we're right. What if we're wrong and we're overlooking somebody?
Oh, well, I'm not necessarily done in my – you just asked me what about the two Arizonas.
Yep.
Right now, I would say yes. Now, recognizing that injuries could derail it and there could be one or both that when we get to November, the end of November, it's like, no, it didn't happen. I understand that. But – we're looking at it right now, and I think those two teams, having gone 6-3 last year, deserve an opportunity to be respected as potential contenders.
If I've left a team out, I would think the next one I should mention would be TCU. I didn't mention them. That would be 8. That's half the league.
Yeah, and that's
what
what
we saw ASU do from the bottom of the league to the league champ thing 2 years ago. So maybe Rich Rod in his second year takes off.
There will be improvement. There was improvement last year as the season progressed within the actual season itself. There's no question. If you followed them, you would know that that team got better, and that team had a major overhaul in the manner that Oklahoma State is going to have that. So I think that what we saw with West Virginia last year, I think we're going to see Oklahoma State be in that category, although I think that Oklahoma State in their first year with everything new, and they've got the North Texas folks and the quarterback coming over, that they have an opportunity to be better than Oklahoma State was last year. So, I mean, they were a pushover, right? Big-time pushover last year. It was a disaster. I think they will be wildly better. Now, what does that mean in terms of winning and losing or the records? I don't know. I don't want to say I have no clue, but it's too much up in the air. But I do think that instead of looking at, that's just about a guaranteed W, you won't have that this year. I think that many of these teams, Cincinnati always seems to be at least halfway decent. I don't see a lot of promise for Colorado, but maybe they shock the world.
I think the thing that's happening with Oklahoma State, and they were 0-9 in league last year. I mean, just a complete mess. But I think they are banking on what we saw at Indiana. They bring in the North Texas coach. He brings a bunch of players with him. It's an immediate shift in attitude, culture, energy, whatever word you want to use. And nobody thought when Indiana went to James Madison to get a coach who brought along a bunch of players, well, James Madison guys, they can't possibly be difference makers in the Big Ten. But they upped their game very quickly. Hard to believe Oklahoma State could hit in that way, but you know that's the recipe they're going for. And even if they don't make it, they could wreck somebody else along the way. Not Utah and BYU, because they don't play Utah and BYU.
I think they'll be a lot more competitive.
Yeah, but they play plenty of these other contenders. So
yeah, and I know this might sound harsh, or not harsh, but stupid. I think that it was easier for Indiana, not last year, but the first year of Cignetti, it was easier for them to do what they did in the Big Ten than it would be in the Big 12. And you may say, wow, the Big Ten, blah, blah, blah. The Big Ten is extremely top-heavy.
Yes.
And then once you got past maybe fourth place on down, it was a lot more manageable. And there's so much mediocrity. The Big Ten basically is a conference of mediocrity. And I know that's shocking to say, but
how else do you describe Nebraska? Yeah. And Wisconsin wants to get back to mediocrity. Penn State wants to get back to mediocrity. Now, 2 years ago, they were good when Indiana was good.
Yeah.
But they were bad last year.
I think you're looking at, you know, to mention a team like Wisconsin and Michigan State.
Purdue,
those teams
Michigan
have had
State,
their runs,
yeah.
but they've been down of late, obviously.
Purdue and Michigan State are pretty messed up.
I think
right
that
now.
the Big 12, the strength is in the balance to be able to do what they did. You look at Indiana and Ohio State last year, both go undefeated, and Oregon loses one. Well, Texas Tech, it was hard for them to go undefeated. I mean, they lost a game. Yeah. That's the nature of this conference. I think it's a little bit deeper in terms of talent. Maybe it doesn't have the supreme talent, and that's what you want to be on the national stage, have the high flyers. I understand that. But that's what makes, for me as a fan, that's make this conference fun. But I do think that there might be an opportunity for somebody to catch fire and have the level of success that can have them be ranked in the top 10 most of the season, or ranked in the top 8 when the committee starts doing its first poll. What's that, the end of October? Is that what they do it? Somewhere around Halloween?
Yep.
Do their thing. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity. And I think both locals have that opportunity, particularly if the Cougars are knocking off Notre Dame.
I was about to say, these non-conference games, we'll know early on whether the league is setting itself up or not. Texas Tech doesn't really have a big non-conference
It does not.
game.
It absolutely does not. No.
Utah has Arkansas. BYU Notre Dame is obviously a big opportunity.
Well, it's the premier one.
Yeah. Houston doesn't really have an opportunity. So.
No, it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's Notre Dame in Provo.
And probably the next best game, ASU and Texas A&M.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Iowa plays Iowa State every year. So there's an opportunity. Because I think Iowa is that second tier of the Big Ten. Iowa, Illinois, USC.
Yeah, but October 17th, if the Cougars should find a way to be undefeated and Notre Dame's coming to town, that's going to be as big a game as you're going to have in terms of attention and all that stuff. Now, it's not going to be something that, I can say, oh, my gosh, they are going to be undefeated, because they got to go to TCU. They play Iowa State. Arizona's going to be tough to play Arizona in the second week of the season. So right off the bat there, that first conference game is going to be difficult, because I think Arizona's going to be good. I expect them to be good. They were good last year, and I see no reason why they're not good. And then, they've got some tough games. That's a pretty good schedule for what the Cougars have.
But Notre Dame should be undefeated, right? I mean, their schedule just doesn't look that hard.
You want to talk about a schedule that's cake? Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah. All those teams we were talking about that are negotiable. Wisconsin, Michigan State, Purdue. Are you going crazy over those three?
Well, I want to see. You got some new stuff there at Michigan State. See how that plays out.
How about Rice, North Carolina?
No,
and Stanford?
it's Miami, but that's after the fact of playing by BYU.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's 6-0 when they
and that Miami thing. When they get to that, that's not until November. That they will have the situation where, Miami, you kept us out, blah, blah, blah. So that's going to be a lot of hoopla when we get to that point, and it's in November when college football really starts to raise. But yeah, you can make a case that Notre Dame would be that situation. I would love to see it. Have both those teams coming in, and they're going to start. BYU now is going to start fairly high in the ranking because of the fact that they've won double-digit games the last 2 years, and the Bears coming back.
If both of those teams are undefeated, you're looking at a top 10 at worst showdown.
I would say so. I would agree with that, yes. That would, at worst, yeah. Maybe, and it depends on what happens with other teams.
Yeah, but it could be top 5 type deal as well.
Yeah, if it broke your way, that possibly could be. And that would be potentially the premier game of the week. And I haven't looked and see what October 17th is, and nor will I. We'll wait because it's
there's a lot that could happen.
Yeah, there's a million things that can happen between now and then.
But if it's undefeated Notre Dame, it's pretty close to the list of premier games.
Yeah, I would say that chance that game, if that's the case, where both teams are undefeated, I think that chance has a chance to be sold out in Provo.
Nah, nice. I thought you were going to say game day. I didn't know you were going to go with sold out.
Yeah, I think there's a chance.
Standing room only. Got it.
I think there's. Jason Buck may get his wish. They may expand to 80,000.
Temporary bleachers in the corners.
Why not? Money to be made.
I totally agree. And Jason's just sitting over there. I've been saying it for a long time. I think more luxury suites around the top rim of the stadium like Lambeau Field.
Well, then put them in.
I know, right? Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one thing the Catholics and the Latter-day Saints know, it's money, right? There's money to be had there, man. Yeah, absolutely. That would be something. And I would love to see it. I'd absolutely love to see it. Pencil me down. I may cover that game. I think there's about a 99.9% chance I'll cover that game.
There you go. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We got to take a break. When we come back, we have some concert tickets to give away. So that's on the way. And I'm sure by then we'll have people tweeting at us about whatever the big games are on October 17th. I'm sure the Cougar fans are already scoping out whether they can get game day here or not for a BYU Notre Dame game. DJ and PK, we'll get to all of that. And hockey playoffs. It's Game 5 tonight. Coming up at the top of the hour, we are going to Las Vegas. It's Game 5 in a 2-2 series. What is going to happen? Any ideas? We'll talk with Ken Boehlke. Sinbin Vegas, talking NHL playoffs, 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
This stuff is available everywhere. Wherever you are, the KSL Sports Zone will be right there with you. It's the KSL Sports app.
I love it.
Where you can get the latest podcasts, up to the second breaking news, and analysis of the teams you can't live without right from your phone. And wherever in the world you may be, you can have DJ and PK, Scotty and the coach, and Jake and Ben tag along with live streaming of your favorite shows. Download the KSL Sports app and never miss a thing. Presented by University of Utah Health. Health is in our DNA. Learn more at uofuhealth.org. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. Wins a pair of tickets to Live Nation's Summer of Live at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Live Nation, of course, bringing multiple shows through town, and they've got a list of them that you can pick from. It won't be everything they bring through town, but you get a chance to pick from several different concerts, different genres, performers.
Genres, look at you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I went to UC Santa Barbara, Big Doug. Caller 12, 801-575-ZONE. Right now, caller 12, 801-575-ZONE. We got more people weighing in on college football. What is going to happen now that Texas Tech has lost their starting quarterback, apparently? We'll go under that until some court says something differently. We'll go with that theory. Hombre de Queso says, hey, it depends on who the person is who replaces Sorsby. Maybe there's some hope with Hammond. Maybe they can find a way to bring somebody else in. Their third-string guy is a Tulsa transfer? Where are we going with this?
Kirk Francis, yeah. I mean, he's a Tulsa kid. He was a walk-on, a preferred walk-on, I guess. I think he ended up starting 12 games. but I look for him as a caretaker if that's the case earlier in the season. My guess would be, unless something happens, which I don't put it past Texas Tech to make something happen because money is a mover and a shaker, and they've got it, that he would start those earlier games and that Houston game, probably him, and then see what Hammond. If Hammond can come back healthy, he's been in the program a number of years, and he was touted. It's not like he's somebody will just take a flyer for depth. No, I don't think that. And the Ute fans saw that because he looked really good in his opportunity to play. Wasn't as good the whole game against the Sun Devils, although they did have a nice rally.
Yep.
But he'll have experience. That's why I think they can still be where they need to be, because I think there's enough time for him to get ready. But, you never know coming off an injury how that's going to be. And obviously it's a serious injury, so we'll see there. And they went and got Sorsby for a reason, because they thought he was better, right? And they want to win at the highest level in 2026 and 27, 28, and so forth and so on. So it's a blow, and I think it allows other teams a glimmer of optimism. But that's all it is a glimmer. You still got to go play, and you got to do your thing and see what happens there. And there's several teams now in this conference are thinking, hey, we got a shot. We got a shot to be in that title game and get to that game and see what happens, right? Texas Tech rolled BYU last year, so it was somewhat predictable. The year before, we didn't really know what was going to happen with Iowa State and ASU, and it turns out that Iowa State wasn't up to the task, and that was a shocker. So maybe shockers become the norm, and therefore they're not shockers anymore.
Well, there's so many kids transferring. I mean, the assumption now is Iowa State lost their coach and a bunch of their key players to Penn State, so the assumption is they're down. But who's to say? Is North Texas really going to pump Oklahoma State up right away? It could work.
It'll make them better. There's no question it'll make them
better. This is a pretty dismissive take from last BYU Jedi, but maybe he'll be right. He says, no real impact. Both those teams smoked Cincinnati last year, and Sorsby is by no means the key to Texas Tech's excellence. Can Texas Tech do what they did last year with Hammond? And that was more than Utah and BYU could handle. And let's assume that they reload, because obviously they had a bunch of seniors. They sent a bunch of guys to the draft, in one case very quickly. But who's to say they can't reload? They still got the money.
They do have the money. There's no doubt about it.
This class as they did with the last one.
Yeah, and Cody Campbell, right after that Oregon loss, we're going to double down. Mm-hmm. And then just a few days later, I think it was like January 4th, they get Sorsby. Then on January 5th, in Times Square, on that marquee that covers a big chunk of real estate there, they have Sorsby up in the banner, in the marquee in Times Square. So the next day. So they paid for that. So they do have all sorts of money. And Campbell, it's funny, Campbell dumps all this money into Texas Tech, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, dude, relax. But then in the next breath, he says, man, college athletics is not sustainable, and we're going to lose a lot of sports, particularly the women's sports. We got to make these changes, right? And he wants to get in. He's got the ear of the president of the United States and all this stuff, and they had a little battle with Yormark. I think Yormark might feel threatened to an extent because they're going to play that game against Houston on a Friday night, and they don't like that. And then Yormark is, well, Cody Campbell doesn't run the conference. So there's a little bit of a...
There's something there, right?
Yeah, there's a rivalry there.
You don't just say that. There's something there.
Yeah, and Campbell probably has the ear and more on speed dial of some of the political movers and shakers that Yormark does not have. Because money talks, right? And so that money always has the loudest voice in the room. And so we'll see how that plays out. I do think it's hard for me to think defensively they were just awesome, right?
Yep.
And they went and got all those one-year guys. They were transfers, but they just weren't transfers on the come. No, they were already there, and they were one-and-done guys. And they leave. Rodriguez wasn't. He was a holdover. But they had other guys along the defensive line, and then they had a defensive back who was a one-and-done who got drafted, and away they go. Now, you bring in these dudes, and you can go look at the list. You can anybody can call it up. Just put in Texas Tech transfer portal guys for 2026, and you can see their names and their star ranking. And there's a bunch of guys. I'm assuming that they can replicate, maybe not exactly, but good enough to be the favorite again. But the Sorsby thing throws a little wrench into that situation, and that's where teams have to take advantage of it, particularly the teams that play them, or if you don't play them, consider it a break and take advantage of it in other ways by not having to play them, which you mentioned, BYU and Utah. And then if you have got to play them, you got to beat them in December, because that's the guarantee. You know, we talked about how the Utes, when they won the Rose Bowl, it wasn't, or when they got to the Rose Bowl, I should say, it wasn't a beauty contest. You did it on the field. You didn't need any freaking vote. You didn't need somebody in a Dallas boardroom deciding that you're good enough to come to the party. You took away all that equation and all that worry. You got the job done yourselves, and you were able to go. Well, do that same thing here now and win the freaking thing in Dallas, and away you go. And you're in the playoff, and then you get who you get. And every level of tournament at the collegiate level is going to be decided by some type of a committee. That's just the way it is. But take that out of the equation, and I think these two local teams have a shot to do that.
When we come back, we are going to Las Vegas. Ken Boehlke, Sin Bin Vegas on Game 5 tonight. The Golden Knights and the Mammoth. That is next. Stay with us. DJ and PK. It is time to welcome in Ken Boehlke from Sin Bin Vegas to talk about the Mammoth and the Golden Knights and their opening round Stanley Cup playoff series. Ken, good morning.
How are you guys?
We are doing well, Ken. I am curious. Is this series playing out the way you expected it to? Is all the expert analysis spot on? Or have there been some hidden gems inside this series that have surprised you?
Some of it has played out the way that I thought it would. I picked that it would go 7, so I guess it has to get to 2-2 usually to get it to 7. So that's been going the way I thought it would. But there's been some things that have been a little surprising. I think Vegas's side, Pavel Dorofeyev kind of getting benched there, and Tomas Hertl getting benched there in the third period into overtime. And then on Utah's side, Peterka kind of had the same situation. So some guys are having good goes here, and other guys not as much. So it's been a good series through 4 games.
Yeah, and what a game that was in Game 4, right? I mean, that was just awesome. That was so fun to watch. You're thinking that, at least I was, and I don't think I'm alone, you're thinking, all right, Vegas has got its bearings a little bit. They're going to assert its experience. They're going to blow these guys out. And no, that doesn't happen. So with that in mind, you won, and ultimately that's all that matters. I'm wondering what you think that they thought of that. Was it like, gosh, man, why did we let these guys back in? Or do they really care about that? Hey, we just won the game, we evened the series, and we got back home ice.
Yeah, I think in the end they're probably just like, all right, we got it. Let's not worry about what the journey looked like to get that one, because they also had their own adversity too, like getting the goal in overtime and then having it come back. Sure. And the coach was off the bench and said he was high-fiving the PR staff already as if they had won, and then now he's got to come back. It's like, oh, my goodness. So that, I mean, in the end, it's like, yeah, that would have been nice. I think Utah is the one that I look at more like, okay, how is this going to go for them? Because you're right. Vegas gave them the best shot they had, and it's 3-0. And that game could have very easily kind of just gone away and said, all right, let's just move on to the next one and figure out how to get 2 more here. They didn't really crumble. They didn't go away. They came all the way back in that game, gave Vegas the best shot that they had back, got all the way over the hump, and then it still ends up not going their way. Like, I still wonder. The Mammoth scored 4 goals consecutively in both games, in the 2 home games up there at the Delta Center, and they only won 1 of them. Usually in the NHL, when you score 4 straight, you're going to win. So I'm interested to see how they're going to respond to that, especially understanding that they kind of ran out of gas there in the back end of the first overtime, and that may have been the reason why that game gets away. They might have won it if it made it 50 more seconds. We got into the second overtime. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond.
Fans and media tend to look for the big plays, the great moments, the stars. I find coaches really tend to believe you lose more games than you win. They're more into eliminating mistakes. And Andre Tourny, before the game, does an interview with the radio play-by-play guy that plays in the pregame show. and I happened to catch it, and one thing he said was, talking to all the guys, your first shift tonight, you got to be good on your first. And, of course, then they give up a goal like a minute 13 into the game, right? So he was planning on having 4 lines. Everybody had one good shift. You're through those first 5 minutes. You get the nerves out. He seemed to be worried about it, and they messed that up. And then they gave up a shorthanded goal off a bad giveaway at the end of the period. Yeah. Do you think it comes down more to mistakes or to great plays?
I think you're probably right that it's probably a mistake. Both coaches were on the same page. It was interesting because in Vegas's pregame media, it was a minute and 13 seconds long, and Tortorella said, we're ready to play 3 times in a minute and 13 seconds, and then got out of there. And meanwhile, you're saying on the flip side, they're like, we just got to get through this first shift. Yep. It does come down to mistakes. Like it typically does. And we've seen a bunch of it. You know, there's been some issues on both ways where they've just allowed some wacky stuff to happen. And it does come down to that. But then, you know, you kind of flip it around and you say, yeah, but you still need Dylan Guenther's shot. You still need Logan Cooley in there doing the types of things he's doing. In Vegas, they win this game 4, because Jack Eichel was spectacular. And the mistake you talk about with Boehlke pushing the puck out to the side on the shorthanded, well, Mitch Marner makes an all-world play to get the puck over to Howden, and then he makes a nice play to score it. So it takes a little bit of both. I think eliminating mistakes sounds all great and good and well, but in the game of hockey, there's going to be mistakes. Like, it's so fast. You've got to be aware of, like, how do we rescue the mistakes we made? Ian Cole makes the mistake late in overtime, knocking the stick out of Boehlke's hands. Puck goes in behind. Well, now they have 2 guys, goes between both of their legs. There's then a chance to block it for Cole to rescue it again, and that doesn't happen. So, it takes 4 mistakes to finally end up being a goal, and it also takes great players to make it happen. Both teams have done both, and that's why we're even where we're at right now.
You talk about the Mammoth and their goal scoring. What do you think about Hart and the goaltending? Disappointing so far, or what?
Yeah, I would say underwhelming to a degree. I thought it was pretty good early in the series, specifically game 1. He was stopping that first shot real well, and then the rebounds that were sitting there, the Golden Knights did a really good job of getting them out. So they didn't really have to worry about kind of maybe the weakness that was there in that first game. That's kind of gone away a little bit as the series has gone on, and certainly the 2 games up in Salt Lake City, there weren't a lot of shots from the Mammoth, so he didn't have a lot of work to do, and he gave up a couple of soft ones. If you give up a soft one in a playoff game, especially on the road, you're typically not going to win. It caught up to them in Game 3. They were able to overcome it in Game 4. The Carcone one off to the side there, and that was ended up being the 3rd goal that tied it. Like, that one's got to be stopped. You know, in overtime, he made a lot of the saves. There's particularly one on Clayton Keller up by his ears that went up into the protective netting. Like, that's a pretty big-time save and one that he has to come up with. So he's doing the job to a degree. I'm a little bit surprised they haven't looked to Aiden Hill. They have a Stanley Cup winner on the bench who makes $6.5 million, who is, you know, in the top 15, I think, in getting paid in the NHL, and he's just kind of sitting there waiting. It's not like this guy's blowing them away in the net, so I'm a little surprised they haven't turned to him, but they're trying to make a pretty clear statement, like, this is the guy. We've got to give him all our confidence. We got to let him get through this, and they're going to apparently live or die by it, it seems.
Seems like Utah's given up 3 or 4 power plays pretty consistently. Do they have to stop doing that?
Yeah, I think so. The Golden Knights power play has been a bit of a mess in the last couple of games. I guess it probably goes back 3 games now, where they're still searching for answers. They're switching their units around. They were one of the best power plays in the league all season long, and they had a 5 forward unit that was operating at. I mean, it was pushing 25%, 1 out of 4 all season long, and they've run into a little bit of a year where they haven't had as much success. Coach starts changing things, and it gets a little ragged. And that one in overtime, I think, would have really come back to bite the Golden Knights if they don't get the extra goal that wins the game. We would be looking back on that one and saying, uh-oh. But you're spot on that, like, a lot of it's the undisciplined stuff. Like, there's been stuff off the puck there's been stuff like okay, the slash in overtime, that's a hard play that he comes in and makes. He gets a little overzealous, and now you're in the box. Like, you're going to have to live with some of those. But, like, some of the stuff, the interferences off the puck, some of the late whistle stuff that happened in game 1 and 2, like, if you can avoid that, the power plays, I think if both teams get an equal number of power plays, both teams feel like they have a pretty good shot to take advantage of it. Whichever team takes more, they're probably going to end up falling behind. And I think even though that's not what ended up happening on the scoreboard, it was the shorthanded goal for Vegas that kind of maybe changed it. I do think if it's 4-2 or 4-1 as it was in the one game, that's not going to work for Utah in these last 2 games. You got to win 2 out of 3, so it's going to be tough.
If Vegas wins this, can I make a case that it'll be largely because of Eichel, Stone, and Marner?
Certainly game 4 was definitely Eichel and Marner. Stone, certainly the first couple of games. They haven't scored as much.
Right.
There's only the 2 goals between the 2 of them. Stone's got a pair of them. Eichel doesn't have any. Marner doesn't have any. They don't typically score a ton in the playoffs. At least he didn't in his Toronto time for Marner. Even the road to the Cup, the Golden Knights played 22 games in their road to the Cup in 2023, and Eichel only had 6. So he doesn't score a ton of goals. I think you're probably right, though. If the Golden Knights are to win 2 games out of 3, it's probably going to be those guys stepping forward and getting the job done. So far, I think the 4th line of Nick Dowd, Cole Smith, and Colton Sissons has probably been the reason it's not 3-1. It's because of those guys. Those guys have stepped forward and probably been better than Utah's bottom line. So that's probably why we're here now. But, yeah, if Vegas gets 2 more in this series, it's probably going to be because of those 3 guys.
DJ PK and Ken Boehlke join us from Sin Bin Vegas to talk about Game 5. I am curious, from the outside looking in, and obviously Vegas is another division, all that, is the progression of the Mammoth in Utah in any way surprising people? Is it what they expected? Is this where the club was supposed to be, so they are? What do you think?
You mean from a Vegas perspective, like a fan's perspective?
Yeah, I'm curious. We have an impression of how the club is performing and how the city's embracing the club in the league, and I just wonder what the perception is from the outside.
Yeah, it's interesting because we kind of have a feeling of like it's a little deja vu for us. Kind of a lot of the same things that people went through in Vegas. The way that it's being embraced, the way that the winning, I think, came a little bit faster. It was definitely a lot faster for us here in Vegas. They went to the Cup final in year 1. You guys are in year 2, so it's a little different. But yeah, I think it's been impressive. Like it's been really cool to see kind of all of the hoopla that went into certainly the Friday game, and then for it to continue, all the billboards, all the stuff on, people putting up signs and flags and all sorts of different things. Like, you're definitely seeing that connection to the city, and winning does that. Like, there's no doubt. Everybody knows Salt Lake City gets behind their teams. We've seen it as long as you can go back, the Jazz, the Utes, you name it, we've seen it. So it's not terribly surprising to anybody that you got a pretty good product there and that the city's embracing it, but it is remarkably similar to see people kind of learning what playoff hockey is. And like that Game 4, I understand that for everybody in the building, it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go, but how can you not walk away from that game and thinking, I'm never going to forget that I was at that game? I've been to like 100 playoff games. I will never forget Game 4 at Delta Center. And the playoff hockey is unbelievable. And to see people get a chance to experience it and feel the ups and downs of it, it's so much fun.
What has Tortorella brought that you think could make a difference?
I guess he's not Bruce Cassidy. For whatever reason, it seemed like they just did not want to get the messages, was not getting through. I think the messages are probably a lot of the same thing. He doesn't have the battle scars of getting on them for an entire season. And so I guess it's just a little bit of a different message. He's brought a very, psychological view to this. It's been so much less about let's change what we're doing and how we're doing it and who we're playing in certain situations. And he's done a little bit of that. And like I said, they benched a couple key players late in Game 4, which I'm not sure Cassidy would have done that. So I guess maybe that comes in. But for the most part, it's been like he seems like he's there to remind them that they're very good. And I'm not really sure why this team needs that reminding. You asked me a minute ago, like, is it going to be Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and Mitch Marner? It's like, hey, guys, you have all these players. Like, they're really good. I don't know why they need reminding, but that's kind of what it's been. And he called himself a guidance counselor at one point. It's been an interesting road here because he's not trying to change a ton of what they're doing, because they're a very good team. They're very well structured, and you guys are seeing it in this series. Like, they're not breaking down and having mistakes. There's been some things that have happened, but it's not like a complete disaster out there. And so this change in coach, it's really just been like delivering the same style of message in a slightly different way. And in many ways, it's like more positive, I guess, which is weird considering what all of us think of John Tortorella before he got here.
I don't like the take it one game at a time cliche. I know there's truth in it, and that's why everybody says. I still don't like it. So I want to take them 2 series at a time. Anaheim's up 3-2 on Edmonton. This series is 2-2. Which of these 4 teams is going to end up in the conference final?
I still feel like it's probably Vegas. I just think the experience, the health that they have, like, they're definitely healthier than Edmonton. Utah's, they're right there. Like, I think these next 3 games are coin flips. Vegas has home ice in the 2. You get a little bit of a benefit in that. I just think that they're in a better spot. I think Anaheim jumped all over Edmonton before Edmonton really settled in. And Edmonton looked a lot better last night. I think McDavid looked a lot better last night after his whatever was going on, an ankle sprain or something going on up there. They're having all sorts of different injuries. Draisaitl came in injured. Like, I think they may be the best of the 4 teams, the Oilers, but I just don't think they're in a position right now, having been down 3-1. Now they got to go back on the road. They got to find a way to win another game here, 2 more, without Anaheim getting 1. I'll put it in this order. I think it's Vegas, then Utah, then Anaheim, then Edmonton, even though I can argue that we could almost flip that completely upside down and how good the teams are and where they are. I just think Vegas is in a good spot in regards to they found a way. Like I said, they gave up 4 consecutive goals in back-to-back games and walked out of there with a win. Like, that's hard to do. It could very easily be 3-1, and they got to be feeling like, all right, let's reset it. We're good. Things are going the way. The advanced stats say we're in good shape. Like, I think Vegas still is the favorite, but it's not by a large number, like, at all. It wouldn't surprise me if any of the 4 of the teams make it to the Western Conference Final.
Do you think the winner of the series has to win tonight?
Probably. I think Vegas has a better chance to be able to do it than Utah. I don't see Utah winning the last 2. I think if Utah's going to win the series, they probably do need to get this one, where I think if the Golden Knights lose this one, they can kind of throw everything they have at Game 6, and then Game 7s are typically a coin flip. But, no, I don't think it has to be. These teams are so close. They're really, really close. And a lot of it's been goofy hops. A lot of it's been weird stuff that's happened. Welcome to playoff hockey. It's the best. It's so crazy because inside of games, let alone game to game, everybody's mind changes so drastically. After Game 1, it's like, I don't know if Utah has a chance in this series. And then after Game 3, you're like, Vegas is basically dead. Then 10 minutes into Game 4, you're like, they're back. I don't see any way the Mammoth can get back to this. Then we're into overtime. You're like, I don't know. I have no idea. So who knows, right?
Yeah.
Well, Ken, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. And I think you just accurately summed up how everybody feels about this roller coaster ride of a playoff series.
Right.
Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Ken Boehlke join us. Sin Bin Vegas. Talking all things Vegas hockey. Golden Knights and Mammoth tonight. Pre-game show starts at 7 on both 97.5 and 1280 The Zone. Adrian Denny has Hockey Night in Utah. 8 o'clock is the official start, but as PK said earlier, come on, these games aren't starting at 8. It's just college football all over again. The preceding game is going to go long, and they're going to slide it to 8:15 or 8:20 or whatever. It's going to happen.
Right.
But we'll have it for you right here on The Zone on both 97.5 and 1280 The Zone. We'll take a break. When we come back, everything you missed in this show, we get you all caught up. Next, stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to get all of you updated on everything you missed. Brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. We've talked a lot of college football this morning because the news out of Texas Tech is stunning. Brendan Sorsby gambling on games, allegedly at Cincinnati and Indiana. And the biggest charge is that he gambled on an Indiana game while he was in Indiana. Now, he's a redshirt. He wasn't playing in it. But nonetheless, a major no-no. The expectation is he's looking at a suspension that will take him off the field for the entire season. Now, he can go to court, so maybe there's a chance he can get some eligibility back. He also has a chance to say, I don't even want to do the court thing. Let's just go to the supplemental draft and go to the NFL. Where does that leave Texas Tech? They've got Hammond, who is a freshman, looked really good against the Utes, played in 8 games, but only played a lot in 4 of them, and the results were a very mixed bag. The game at Utah was clearly his best game. So how good are they? Is the door a little more open for Utah and BYU to get to the title game, possibly even both of them for a rematch? And does it open the door for everybody else, whether you're the Arizona schools, your Baylor, your TCU, your Houston, your whoever? And the answer to that, PK, pretty much has to be, yes, the door looks more open standing here today. The question is how much?
I think that it's equal for every team. So the door's open the same percentage for every team in a conference that is a contender. The difference is for some teams, the door has already been opened wider. You follow me?
Yeah, I get that. I don't know that this opens it up. In a way, it opens it up for Utah and BYU because we don't know, but we think they're both going to be pretty good. But I think the teams that really opens the door for are the teams that get to play Texas Tech, and our local schools do not, because now they say we can beat them, we can give them a loss. Utah and BYU, when it comes to Tech, if Tech goes 9-0, they go 9-0. There's nothing Utah and BYU can do about that. They're not going to see them unless they play them in the 10th game.
BYU and Utah both go 9-0.
Well, Utah and BYU can't both go 9-0 since they play each other.
Rats.
I know, right?
That plan just fell to pot so easily. And speaking of pot, it is Willie Nelson's 93rd birthday today.
Hey-o!
How much weed do you think he's blown in his life, man?
Oh, my gosh. You know, when you're driving, I don't know if everyone here knows, but when you're driving from northern to southern California, you go up the Central Valley, and there's just fields after fields after field after orchard after orchard after orchard. Yeah, you're getting warm. That's it. Those miles between Fresno and Sacramento, or Visalia and Fresno, or wherever. Holy cow.
Yeah. I think this could level it out a little bit more. But for BYU and Utah's sake, I can argue that the door has already been open. I don't know if it was open half. Maybe now it's open more, at least half. We'll see. Yeah. Surprises happen, man. In this conference, this is the wacky whack. Only it's the wacky Big 12.
It is.
And crazy things happen, which makes it fun. And things can just not every year, but both years. There's been a lot of unpredictability, and this might be the latest curveball.
Well, last year, obviously, BYU lost Retzlaff, kind of a similar timeline with what's happening with Texas Tech and Sorsby. But it turned out Bachmeier comes in, and they're pretty good. Now, there was a ceiling, when they got to face Texas Tech. They couldn't block them, and they lost to them twice. And 2 years ago, not only did, and this could happen to Tech too, not only did Cam Rising go down, but then multiple guys behind him. And Hammond is coming back from a knee injury. What if it isn't good enough? What if he re-injures it? What if it's something else? I mean, he's a quarterback. It could be a shoulder and elbow. I mean, you never know. How deep do they have to go down the depth chart? Is this the in 3 years in a row, we've seen one of our local teams lose a quarterback, and 5 wins, 8 wins, 11 wins. Anything is possible. We've seen all of those things happen.
Yeah, I think any team that has to go down to its third quarterback is in trouble.
Is in trouble. Yeah.
And that's nothing against that third quarterback. He might be a freshman who just simply isn't ready, or with the availability to transfer, it's someone that was a walk-on and you just needed somebody from depth for depth purposes. So we'll see.
It's hard
how
to keep
that
really
goes.
three really good quarterbacks because one of them is probably going to take off and go somewhere else.
If not multiples.
Yep.
So, I mean, I personally, Bachmeier, I had no idea he was going to start game one last year. I was shocked.
You did not. You were not. We've talked a lot of Utah Mammoth this morning. By the way, that Pete Sousa interview, if you want more on the quarterbacks and the Big 12 and the race and all that, wherever you get your podcast, listen to Pete Sousa, host of Inside the Big 12. Join us. It was at 7:30 this morning in the second hour. He had a lot of opinions on the locals in Texas Tech and the way things stacked up in the league. So if you want more, go get that. We just talked with Ken Boehlke, Sin Bin Vegas. He's also available on a podcast wherever you get that if you missed that. He thinks there is an advantage to be had going up 3-2, but he was really underlining just the wackiness and randomness of the NHL playoffs. He made a point about Edmonton being the best team of the four in this quarter of the bracket, but they had a couple injuries. They defended really poorly until last night when they only gave up one goal. Maybe they can dig out of this hole, but it is a crazy scramble to see who gets out of this series and who gets to a conference final.
Yeah, I do agree with him, though. I think if the Mammoth want to win, they need a mulligan, meaning they need to win tonight. So then they only would need to win one of the two. It would seem hard for them to win the following two games. Not putting it as impossible, just putting it at harder versus what Vegas can put out there.
That is something we say in every sport when a series is 2-2. You really want Game 5. It's not over. It's not impossible, but it's a lot heavier lifting. So, high stakes tonight. Edmonton did win 4-1 over Anaheim. So the other series we're keeping an eye on, Anaheim's up 3-2. Edmonton did avoid the knockout there. Tonight's game is on TNT following the Pittsburgh-Philadelphia game, which starts at 5:30. I wish that thing started at 5, so this one could start a half hour earlier because this is 8 o'clock, but it's going to be 8:20.
Oh, I wish that game started at 2 so ours could start at 6.
Montreal and Tampa Bay play on ESPN2 at 5 o'clock. So 3 NHL games tonight. And the NBA tonight, the TNT game, the late TNT game is Utah and Vegas. ESPN will have an NBA game. The Lakers trying to finish off the Rockets. The Lakers are up 3-1
I
in
think
that
they
series.
will. Austin
Durant's
Reeves.
already been ruled out.
Yeah, Durant's not playing. He's done. This has been sort
now
of
where? Who wants him now?
A wasted season in terms of what he's trying to accomplish. He's just piling up stats and then not being available in the playoffs. That just decimates that team.
How many playoff series has Kevin Durant won in the last 5 years?
Is that a question you have an answer to?
I do.
Then why don't you just answer it?
One playoff series in 5 years and only 2 in the last 7. 2 since he left Golden State. Not a lot of postseason success there, which I think, again, everything in the NBA view with one eye on the Jazz. It's like you know they can be really good in the regular season, but then you kick out 14 teams that aren't nearly as good, and you let one team focus on you for 2 weeks and examine all your flaws and see where to attack. And how do you stack up then? The winning gets a lot harder.
Well, in this sport, too, it's who's available.
Certainly this year, and it's a trend that's been trending up. There have been more and more playoff injuries, and I saw a stat, 4 All-Stars have missed games this year, and 4 other players who are maybe not officially All-Stars, but everybody knows who they are. They're really good players. You know, Austin Reeves is not an All-Star, but he's a really good player. Jalen Williams in Oklahoma City was on that list because he's missed a game.
Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon was on that list, you're right, and I'm missing somebody else.
Anthony
There's
Edwards.
name on that list.
DiVincenzo, they've missed one game.
DiVincenzo was the other name, yes. You're right. Good work.
Anthony Edwards has missed a game, and he's going to miss
He's one of the All-Stars. Edwards is one of the All-Stars. Durant, Doncic, and Victor Wembanyama missed a game. So you're looking at that's 8 really good players, and the top 6 teams in the West have all been hit. Now, not to the same degree, obviously, but really you could argue the team that's been hit the hardest, the Lakers, is the one that's going to survive. We'll
because their other team had the injury.
Now.
I think maybe the Lakers could have beat the Houston either way. We'll never know.
That might be true also.
Doesn't matter. If you're not available, it sucks for you, but away you go. And, the Lakers were fortunate. They ran into a team that probably wasn't as good and didn't have their best player, and that allowed you to sit two of your nucleus, get one back. I don't know when Doncic is coming back, but hope for their sakes they're at full strength when they get to the second round.
Yes, they're on pace to face Oklahoma City, and I don't know what kind of chance they have, but obviously without Doncic, it's not going to be pretty. I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
The college basketball news, to go with all that NBA news, the NCAA is closing in on expanding the NCAA tournament to 76 teams. There's some stuff to work out, but it seems like it's going to happen. And they're going to do it for both the men and the women. And you brought up the possibility, PK, tons of speculation, like do they put more games in Dayton? For travel purposes, that looks like a bad idea. I mean, Texas negotiated it. They went all the way to Portland, and then they won, and then they won again, and they got to the Sweet 16, so it can be done. But it does seem to make more sense a place like, and the two I read right out of the gate, Salt Lake and Las Vegas, because there's tons of flights out of both cities, and whether you're sending somebody back to, Oklahoma or Texas, or whether you send them out to any of the West Coast cities with NBA arenas, you can get there pretty quickly from here.
Sure, but I wouldn't necessarily set it up for allow their travel. Don't get in that situation then if you're going to worry about travel being a problem.
Right, but I do think the NCAA will. Maybe not. Maybe they'll park all the games in Dayton and just run one side.
No, I think they'll have two sites. And away you go, and we'll see. I'm all for change. This doesn't seem necessary, but let's see how it is. And people are going to take you already took a shot at Oklahoma, all right, but you're a big Bay Area guy. Did you take a shot at Steph Curry being in the play-in? They were 5, 6, 7 games under 500 this year.
Yeah. The playoffs, the postseason are getting bloated everywhere because people will watch them. And I think that the NFL did a great job of holding the line for a long time, but I can take shots at the 7 seeds and just look at them and think, really? Really? Have you got it? Why? What's the point? I'm not that intrigued. But you're right. It does happen, and it's going to happen everywhere. And baseball did a great job of holding the line. And to a certain degree, maybe they're doing the best job of holding the line right now. You can still see an 84-win team get in. That gets harder and harder to control with interleague play if things get lopsided. It's just, and the smaller divisions, stuff's going to happen. We're seeing teams with, an 8-9 record win a tiebreaker and win an NFL division.
Yeah, but the only reason why that 84 team got in, and for some reason you're jealous of it, is that they went to the World Series. If they got beat in the first round, nobody would be talking about it.
It'd be like the Warriors. Yeah, we just okay, so they're out.
Yeah, right. But they happen to get hot in a sport where you get hot. And you got hot at the right time.
Yep.
And everybody outside of Los Angeles loved to see that the little guy took out the Dodgers that year.
and baseball and hockey really lend itself to that by the nature of the sports. I mean, it's not that it can't happen in basketball because maybe Orlando's going to take out Detroit here tonight. Orlando's up 3-1. But I just think it's way harder in football and basketball.
Well, tell me what your pitchers are. What are they doing?
Yeah. And do the other teams have their pitchers, or we've started to see bullpen games in the postseason now, Guys are hurt and guys are gassed, and sometimes drastic measures are required. Speaking of drastic measures, the Philadelphia Phillies fired Rob Thompson. Don Mattingly is now the interim, and that is 2 coaches down, 2 managers down, and we haven't made it to May yet. First month of the season, gone. Red Sox, and Phillies.
Big market, big money.
True story.
I don't think you're seeing Milwaukee. If Murphy would have gotten off to a bad start with the Brewers, I don't think he would have get run. But where there's a ton of attention, there you go. And that's sort of the curse of playing in those types of markets where you've had generations of fans and they simply don't tolerate it.
Mets manager Carlos Mendoza acknowledging his status is in question as the Mets get off to a bad start. That'd be big market if he's third.
That would be, yeah. We'll see. I don't know what they're doing there. They can look at maybe some injury situations, but Where you're spending much, you want much in return. If you don't get it, there's a problem.
Yeah. And the Mets are off to a 10-19 start, the same exact record that led to the change in Philadelphia. So is it Don Mattingly's kid who's the GM in Philly?
Yeah, that's involved there. I think his name's Preston.
Nepotism in reverse. We don't see that. We don't see kids hiring dads very often. That's crazy.
Well, I think it's an interim thing.
It is an interim, yeah.
For
now, it's interim. We'll see. But you're right. For now, it is interim.
Well, isn't that the definition of interim?
They could take the interim tag off and make him the guy.
But you said for now it's interim. If it's interim, it has to be for now.
It might be permanent.
By definition, it is for now.
I'm going to battle this. Let's go.
What are you going to battle? There's nothing to battle.
I mean, come on. It's got to be for now. That's the fact.
Mm-hmm.
He's a long-term interim coach.
Or he could end up being permanent. The interim could just be a head fake.
Oh, a permanent interim coach?
Well, I guess to a degree,
ultimately they're all interim
then, right? Even Bruce Bochy.
You are permanently interim,
3
sir.
World Series. It was interim. It was a decade, but it was just an interim.
Yeah.
It's a decade-long interim.
Will Hardy doesn't know it, but he's an interim coach.
Yes. The only one who knows it is Pavel, because he did tell us once. You said something about that, and I remember him going, PK, I'm a coach. You said something about, I really enjoy interviewing you every week. You got such interesting things to say about sports, and the stuff he says can apply to college or other sports or whatever. It's so
life.
intriguing. Don't get yourself fired. He's like, PK, it's pro sports, man. He's already been fired as a coach.
Yeah, I know.
And let go as a player. He knows.
And that's the reality of it.
Yeah, he's lived it.
If you get a 10-year run at the pro
awesome.
level, that's great.
That is spectacular.
Right.
The NFL news, Denver Bronco quarterback Bo Nix, a second procedure on his surgically repaired right ankle. However, it was expected, and they're saying he remains on track to be ready for training camp. Denver, obviously, very high hopes for them. They're hosting the AFC title game. Now they had to go with their backup quarterback, and they got beat. But very high hopes for the Broncos this year. So we'll see Bo Nix get himself healthy.
I would think he would, yeah.
Yeah. Steelers use the free agent tender on Aaron Rodgers so they get to match anything. And if he does go somewhere else with another offer, they can get a compensatory pick, get a bonus rookie. So he's entitled to a 10% raise off last year's salary, so netting him around $15 million. And hasn't announced what he's doing yet. Don't you assume he's just hanging out for a while and then coming back? Isn't that
if
the
he
most
wants to
likely
play,
scenario?
yeah. I just don't see where he has many options.
I'd agree. The situations seem to be getting more and more settled, don't they?
Yeah, and he's not as good.
I said Arizona, but you shot that down. You don't buy that.
New coach, you're going to bring in somebody when you're in a rebuilding situation.
And I don't see why he'd want to do that or they'd want to. That division, I mean, at least one of those three teams are going to be really good again. If you stay in the NFC North, you got a shot. That thing looks wide open. It ought to be a battle like it was last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he would just want to hang on for a paycheck.
No. And if you're going to do at least make a run and, try to get back to the playoffs and, maybe the Ravens with a coaching change might be really good. Maybe Cincinnati or Cleveland gets it figured out. Cincinnati staying healthy.
You're going to bench Lamar Jackson?
What?
You're benching Lamar Jackson?
Pittsburgh's got a new coach. Baltimore's got a new coach. Why am I benching Lamar?
Well, because you made it sound like that was where Aaron would want to go.
No. I'm saying stay in Pittsburgh and compete against those guys.
Oh, okay. I got you.
As opposed to going to Arizona, competing with Seattle, who won it all.
Okay.
The Rams were the second best team. The Niners lost to the Rams.
I thought you were listing possibilities for him.
No. No, I think Lamar's good. I think Lamar's the guy.
Right.
It's about as locked up as the job could be.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think that's a place where you can compete and things could break your way and something good could happen. Whereas if you go to the NFC West, you're going to just be beating your head against the wall. So even though they might have a spot for a quarterback, I just don't see where there's really much of a chance to have success there. That's a long-term rebuild, and they need a younger guy and invest in him.
Right.
as I argue against the thing I threw out there. You love it when I do that. Perhaps we should just go to break and come back with your feedback, everything you're saying about the hockey game tonight, Game 5 in Vegas, and also Texas Tech, BYU, Utah. What's going to happen to Big 12? Plenty of reaction to that. It's all coming up. Stay with us, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK brought to you in part by Tim Dolly Mazda, Scotty G and the coach. Tomorrow, 10 to 2. They'll be at Tim Dolly Mazda, 10785 South Auto Mall Drive in Sandy. Join them at Tim Dolly Mazda. All right, time for your feedback. And the football fans are out, PK. BYU, because they never really go away. BYU and Utah, what's the impact here with Brendan Sorsby apparently going to be suspended for the year? That's a hit to Texas Tech, losing their starting quarterback, or they're bringing in from Cincinnati. What's the impact? Space Coug says BYU, a ton. Utah, they'll be lucky to have a 6-6 season with that offensive line.
I don't know about that.
Totally dismissive from Space Coug.
Well, that offensive line started against Nebraska.
Right? How'd that go?
Well.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it wasn't just Nebraska because they had so many blowouts, set aside Texas Tech, BYU, and K-State.
Oh, yeah.
But the other 9 games, they got to play. And they get a series here, a couple series there.
Here, a series everywhere, series.
Some of those games were over at halftime. I mean, they were over. I mean, Colorado was done. Cincinnati was done.
Right,
ASU, didn't ASU have that weird storm?
Oh, yeah, it was awful. Yeah,
all the people left too, and the second half felt like a scrimmage. But there's just all those
people
games.
in Florida were saying, "What the freak you doing?"
Yeah, all those games, plural, are an opportunity for these guys. So they're not the starters. That's true, and they got to fit them together. And
but that game was one in which it was together. I remember talking to Mark Harlan about it before the game, and because offensive line has to work in concert. Yep. And those guys passed it with flying colors.
Yep.
If Dampier recreates that 9 times, that level of game that he played in that game, sitting in that press box, and I saw him play a ton of games, but he was just flat out incredible in that game. And they toyed with Nebraska. It's like Nebraska wasn't even close. You would have thought that they were a lower level team.
John says losing Sorsby is not going to impact Texas Tech because Will Hammond is more than capable of doing the job. He's got to be more consistent, but he's just a freshman. Now he's a sophomore, so that's not an impossible expectation. It could well be reasonable. He could pull that off.
And wasn't he a redshirt freshman last year?
I'd have to look up his redshirt status. I don't remember that.
I think that
and if it was a true redshirt. It wasn't one of those 4-game redshirts. Not all redshirts are created equal.
Right. But this is his 3rd year in the program. But, if he misses that Houston game
and they lose,
1 game makes a difference.
It does. I think that's a massive game. That is a huge game out of the gate. For them to pick up an L right out of the gate and then, 1 more. I mean, you might make it because 2 years ago it worked out with 4 teams at 7-2. I just don't think it's likely. You're really begging for help, and it has happened.
Well, but that's assuming that that's assuming that you run the table in the other 8 games.
I don't know. See what's going to happen. Also, and you knew it would happen. Notre Dame BYU will be the biggest game of the day. Plenty of people want to notify us that that's the day Ohio State plays Indiana. So there'll be some anticipation around that. Now we'll see if they can both replicate their success. That's also the day that Penn State plays Michigan. That day's loaded. And ASU plays Texas Tech. So there you go.
Okay, and those are big games, but is Indiana, Penn, Ohio State really that big of a game?
There is no guarantee that any of these games we're talking about are going to match undefeated teams. They may well, maybe they do. But if BYU's undefeated, the best bet in all of this is that Notre Dame's going to be undefeated. The front half of their schedule just doesn't look very hard at all.
Well,
it just looks easy.
Even if Ohio State and Indiana are undefeated, so what?
See, that's a big game, and then it goes into big noon, and maybe the next game is Notre Dame and BYU.
Well, no, I'm just saying that does the loser, the loser doesn't necessarily lose anything.
No,
whereas Notre Dame being an independent and BYU being from the Big 12, the implications of that game are far greater than it is in the Big 10 because the Big 10 will give you multiple mulligans.
as we saw with Indiana and Oregon last year, and as we saw Ohio State not even making the conference title game and winning it all 2 years ago.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's right there. Recent history. All right, DJ and PK, we are all done. The coach, Scotty G, on the way right here on The Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.